Hey, what's up, grappling fans? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster. Here's an unusual thing. I know I normally say some pomp and circumstance, but they're about to go to the cage, so that means I already have to bring on Dan, which means I have to go to his opening credit sequence. Here we go.
Better have my money. Bitch better have my money. Hey, what you owe me? Bitch better have my money.
Just jumping
Dan,
right into the fire this week.
No pomp, no circumstance. Just here's Dan Hubler. Let's get straight to your bets, Dan.
I didn't bet on this fight, so we have a little bit of a buffer here. We're okay. Unofficially, this is not one of my official 4 picks for this week. On my own, I did take the under in this fight just because I think this is a fight where you have a guy who's got 3 losses in a row. He's got to make a statement. He's going to come out there hopefully firing, and then you got another guy making his debut, and he's mostly fought a bunch of people who've never won a fight. So all things point to the under in this fight, but you never know. But can we do a quick recap of last week? I think we're up. I think we're up 77 whole cents last week. It was a big win. Don't go out there and spend it all in one place, but a win is a win. So we'll take it. That takes us over $6 now altogether over 2 weeks. So we are up $6, guys, at least. So let's keep it up this week, hopefully. And most of the picks this week are main card picks. So if if you're still on your way home from work, you're going to miss the prelims. No big deal. We're looking at the main card mostly for the most value on this event. Let's just start off. Mean Hakeem. I like the guy a lot. I think he learned a lot in his his debut with Danny Henry. He looked like he was kind of showboating a little feeling himself, and I think he got introduced to the fact that this is the big leagues real quick, and he realized that he needed to shell up that defense. He needed to take this seriously, and I think he's done that since then. With that fight, I did find it's free on YouTube. You can find it yourself. He fought in the World Series of Fighting a couple years ago against one of those Russians with a MAGA name. And I think the fight that we're going to see tonight is going to be pretty similar to that fight. In that fight, he was taken down repeatedly. I think he was taken down about 6 times altogether. But in every one of those situations, he was able to scramble back up to his feet. He was able to create some situations where, he was able to get some dirty boxing in. And in the 3rd round, after he had exhausted this guy by, repeatedly getting up, he just laid it on him. It was a 10-8 round in the 3rd. He just destroyed that guy in the 3rd round with the striking. And, I think the blueprint for tonight's fight is going to be pretty similar to that one. It's going to be, can Mean Hakeem get back to his feet? If he can get back up to his feet, I could see this being a pretty good night for him. That's why I'm taking him scorecards, no action, plus 130. So with that fight, we're looking at if it goes to the judges' scorecards, the fight is a push. You just get your money back. No loss, no win. But I do think, he has some finishing ability, and especially with his opponent, not fighting very often. He had that one fight in February, but before that, he had a long layoff. It just looks like a good fight where me and Hakeem could probably get a finish and hopefully cash us, an early bet.
Let's move to the second portion, sir. I love that. You sent me bullet points, and here's the issue. You're too good of a teacher because I have to almost tell you television bullet points are way dumber. So a full sentence.
I gave you a bunch, and I thought that maybe you could just pick and choose. I thought the bold stuff. I put the stuff in bold that I thought might make sense.
Don't get me wrong, it's amazing, and the whole thing is it's a testament to you. But in trying to make some of these things look user friendly, it might take me a second. So I'm actually switching things up on some of these. I will be able to make some adjustments as we go. But I just wanted to give you the heads up on when we were doing this. I was like, God damn it, Dan, these are really good. But okay, we'll see how good I work in live time. Meanwhile, I do want to walk people through. We are watching the I Bring a Movie versus Marquez going on right now. And Dan, you're going to walk us through the second portion of the bet. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about
the second part of the Mean Hakeem bet or the Vieira fight?
I think we were going to go to the Vieira fight on this one.
You cut out just a little bit, man.
Oh, I was just saying, I think we're going to the Vieira fight on that part.
Okay, yeah. So with the Vieira fight, I mean, I think this is a no-brainer. We're getting a fighter in Eubanks who fought 2 weeks ago. Someone who's historically struggled with weight cuts. Someone who has historically struggled with people who are larger than them. And in this fight, not only does she have the 2 week turnaround, but she's also dealing with someone who has both the height and reach advantage over her. Someone who should be able to kind of bully her way around the cage a little bit and make this ugly. I just don't see how you can pass on the money line here. Minus 185 seems like an incredible value when you think of all the disadvantages going against Eubanks in this fight. Now, Eubanks just put on a hell of a show. I think there's probably some recency bias here, taking out a young up-and-comer. She probably has a little bit more credit on her name right now. But with that being said, every disadvantage, playing against her in this fight is something that she struggled with in the past. And with that being said, the minus 185 is an absolute must bet.
How often do you take into effect recency? Because that has been something that I think is something that becomes very difficult for a number of fighters to really sometimes overcome. But when you're betting on them, it's a different ballgame.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, I think the casual fan will look at this fight and be like, Eubanks, isn't that the one who beat the shit out of that girl 2 weeks ago? And like it's a good thing. But then when you think about it more, like, damn, she had to cut weight 2 weeks ago. She went through her whole camp 2 weeks ago. Now she's flying to Abu Dhabi to fight 2 weeks later against someone who's larger than her with more reach than her. So, a problem that she's run into time and time again in her career. It just seems like that having that fight 2 weeks ago works as a disadvantage to her rather than an advantage.
Interesting. Okay. So just so people can remember, here's what Dan put in there in case you didn't see the graphic. But yes, Vieira, and repeat this, ML negative 180.
Yeah, this is the money line bet. So we're just taking her straight up. She has to win the fight. A lot of times I take prop bets. I take, plus or minus points. I'll take scorecards, no action. A money line bet means that they got to win the fight. Now, the only way this bet would push is if it was a draw or no contest.
Fair enough. So I also want to go ahead and take a moment to just acknowledge this. If you guys are watching along with us, these are Dan's picks. So I want to make sure to put him front and center on this. These viewing versions make it a little bit difficult to always put Dan front and center. So work with us here, kids. It's always a learning experience. Dan, we're going to have you walk us through the next portion of your wonderful infographic, by the way.
Yeah, so Brandon Royval, I'm a big fan of this kid. I think he's got a lot of talent. What I like about him the most, I think the average fan is going to like about him is he's continuously looking for a finish. Whether that's a submission, whether that's some unorthodox striking. What the things that stands out in my mind is I don't remember which one of his fights, but it was recently someone caught a leg kick and with his other foot he tried to leap up in the air and kick him in the face. Now he missed, but like that kind of finish killer instinct is something that I don't think you can teach that. I think you have it or you don't, and I like the fact that he has it. So with this bet, I'm going minus 130 scorecards, no action, because I believe he has a better chance of finishing the fight than his opponent does. If we look at the data, and we have a lot of it between these two guys, Royval has a pretty high finishing rate. He's looking at 91% in his wins, finishes, mostly submissions. If we look at Kai Kara-France on the other side, he has only got a 57% finishing rate. He doesn't finish fights as often. Now he was finishing fights back on the regional scene, knocking people out in New Zealand and Australia. But since he's come to the UFC, his power hasn't really adapted to that new level yet. He's going to decision quite a bit. He's struggling when he's dealing with volume quite a bit. I think Brandon's probably going to throw some unorthodox, weird stuff at him. I just think that, what's going to happen is that eventually in this fight, Kara-France is going to shoot a single leg. And what we've seen in the past, Brandon Moreno was a good example, is that, he's susceptible to the guillotine. The guillotine's available. Paiva went for multiple guillotines. I think that Royval is going to welcome these grappling exchanges as Kara-France is hitting some takedowns, possibly midway through the fight. These grappling exchanges are going to be welcome and give Royval a path to a victory here. I would like to see a submission second round. I think that's kind of what things are leaning towards, but who knows? But I'm going with the scorecard, no action because I'm not super confident that he can get the submission. Kara France is a pretty, slippery guy. He can get out of trouble. He doesn't seem like he's someone who's very willing to tap to something unless it's all the way in. So I could see this going to the decision and Royval possibly losing that decision just based on Kara France's takedowns. But I think if anyone's going to finish this fight, it's going to be Royval, which is why I'm taking him scorecards, no action.
I dig it. All right, that's good stuff. Now, look, here's the thing. You give me a problem and I turn it into a solution here, Dan. I have made things work. Do you like the little ticker you got going on?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Going on I feel like I'm in Sports Center or something.
Hey man, this is the goal. This is where we eventually want to be. The hard part is just, I'd love to have, an intern do this for me. But this is all me. This is all me and you. You wrote out the beautiful prose on these fighters, and I don't want it to be cut because a lot of it's very good, and I could very easily chop it up. But I think what's important is if people are tuning in, if you don't like listening to us, just read. I think you'll get what you need to get right here. So this is where I think a lot of people have a lot of excitement, Dan. Of course, talking the very top of your note here, and we are in on a second rear naked choke. The last
this
portion.
is over. This is that under is going to hit right now.
Ooh, but here's the thing. He is readjusting. He's got plenty of time here. I'd love to see him hip in a little bit more, but he looks like he cannot keep this.
He's riding a little high. He's riding a little high, but it doesn't look like he's doing anything to take advantage of it. He's not trying to grab the head. He's kind of just like hoping he doesn't get choked out right now. So
it looks like he's gently placing him down as to be like, I do so much better if I'm not, catcalling my way back up. So if you could do me a solid and just go face down, that would really help this choke right now. It seems to be what is going on over that, by the way. But yes, you did do the over-under on that. We'll see how that returns in just a second. But I know most people are most interested in the very top of the card. I'm sure you've been hit about this all week. How many people have asked you, who do you have between Izzy and Paulo, sir?
A lot, and I'm a little bit confused about why so many people are so big on Costa. And I get like he's this huge, he's a freak of nature athletically, he's got muscles on his muscles. He looks like he's like the perfect, what people would imagine is the perfect fighter. But I mean, if you've seen the guy fight, and if you've seen him go into a round 2, round 3, his output drops significantly in round 2, and even more so in round 3. He starts throwing one shot at a time. His combos go away. When you have that much muscle, it's just impossible for you to fight a 5-round fight with your foot on the gas the entire time. Now we know that Izzy can do that. And so when we have a fight like this where you have the champion, undefeated champion, at such a small favorite, you got to take that bet. We have a lot of data that we can look at here. We can see that, Izzy has in the 3 times he's gone to the scorecards, he's won unanimously all 3 times, and he's cleared the point spread 2 out of 3 times. The one fight he did not clear the point spread was that weird Romero fight. I don't think we can count, obviously part of that was Izzy's fault, but it was also Romero being passive in that fight. It was just a weird fight altogether. But if you look at the Gastelum fight, if you look at the Tavares fight, he easily cleared the 5-point spread. And so I'm taking Izzy here in the championship fight with the 5-point spread. I'm thinking he gets it done. I'm guessing that he's probably going to win the later rounds just based on, the output from Costa dropping off in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly even see a late finish. But I don't believe, from what I've seen so far and what any of us have seen, because we've only seen Costa go to a round 3, is that he doesn't look like he has it in him to fight a 5-round fight. And, if that being true, you got to take, the champion, the undefeated champion who has done it and has done it, repeatedly.
Do steroids play a potential harmful, disparaging fact through any of this? If he was on them, I wouldn't ever suggest he is.
Yeah, I mean, there's those intangibles, right? Like if one of these guys is going to have a heart attack in the cage, it's going to be Costa, right? Like there's one. If you're looking at both of these guys, that doesn't go into the bet, but just think about it.
I wish into the many prop bets that I'm sure you probably take that if there was a little elective that said might have a heart attack, you would possibly go, I'm going to say no this time, but maybe next time.
No, you give me 1,000 to 1 on that. I'll throw a 20 on it. I'll let it ride.
I always think sometimes, Dan, that there's the bets that you tell everybody to take, and then there's the bet that you one day hope is like, and that's Dan's retirement fund right there,
Oh
kids.
yeah. Oh yeah. I do the, I mentioned before, I do the parlays that are ridiculous payouts. And, every once in a while I'll get close to hitting one and it's just fun and exciting. But yeah, I mean, the whole trick of the thing is not getting too degenerate with your betting. If you're going to make a weird bet, throw 20, $40 on it. Don't go crazy. If you're going to bet on the Puppy Bowl, you don't drop a paycheck on it. You throw like $50 on the Puppy Bowl, and you get to enjoy watching these puppies run around with toys. It's like just making sure you don't dive too deep into the degeneracy is kind of the whole point of all of this.
So we are seeing a 2018 performance by Marquez, who had 2 minutes worth of back ride time, which, man, he would not be a favorite over any EBI. But at the very least, he is winning the fight. Let's see if he's able to go ahead and make that. Do you ever get a little bit angrier at fighters when they aren't performing the way they need to, or potentially, I don't know, leaving their neck open for a guillotine by a dude?
Super, super angry, because and this is one of those fights where I didn't really care who wins. I just kind of hope that someone loses before 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the third round. But with one of those kind of fights, it's another thing, you don't bet too much on that kind of fight because it's a toss up. You got one guy three losses in a row, fighting for his job. Another guy making his debut. They're both 205 pounds. Anything can happen. I thought they would fight with a little bit more urgency and try and get a finish and try and make a statement. But fight's a fight. It doesn't always go your way.
Well, no, not at all. And I'm so glad that you say your way, as if you are in the fight game, but it is more so you are saying you as the gambler at home.
Yeah, I wish they had that the virtual audience at these UFC fights.
Oh my God,
can you imagine? You just cost me $40. Why did you finish that choke? What are you doing?
We joked on this week's episode of the podcast because while watching the Laker games, all I could think of was, Denver is where Kevin is at right now. So, he was very, very excited to mention Raph, it's your Lakers versus Denver. And I was like, we just don't mention it because I just want to win. Nah, he's not. Ooh, no, he's not out. He just had to give it up. And I think he recognized that he could give it up. Although I bring a movie, I think he thought for a split second, hey, bro, were you out? And I think the idea from Marquez was he's like, dude, there was no way I thought your guillotine was going to finish me. So I let you have it to give my back to the mat.
I've used that technique on white belts before, kind of go limp a little bit and hope they let go of whatever weird technique they're using on me. I'm like, shit, I can't tap to this. And he's just going to.
I am 100% of the mindset as captain defense, somebody who can make shit happen where I go, well, you can stay, but I'm leaving. And then once I yoink out of it, they get very angry at me. And I go, it's your dumb fault you didn't finish it. That's all I can tell you, kids. So
yeah, both of these guys should have finished this fight already, but we are past the under portion.
Well, I can tell you from our betting lines on the Verbal Tap polls, we did have pretty close to an even split, honestly, all things considered, if you look at the numbers based on this.
Yeah, I mean, this is a coin flip of a fight. I think the betting lines were pretty even on both of these guys. I think Marquez was a slight underdog, but with the lack of tape available on him, it just didn't make sense to throw a wager on him. And honestly, I don't even know who won this fight. It's been all over the place. It's been a hot mess. So I would not be feeling good no matter what side of this bet I was on right now.
Marquez looks like he will win it, even though at this current juncture, he looks like he is in some not great position. I am going to bet on his jiu-jitsu to get him out long enough. And again, dude, this is a dude who's playing with danger where he's just like, yeah, you can have every part of my neck that I would feel so nervous. But clearly it's worked for him. He now has a pass. Yeah. So this will secure.
At this point, you kind of count on him. Everyone has burned out arms at this point. Probably neither of them could squeeze very hard. So, I'm just going to hope that my neck is a little bit more resilient than your arm strength is at this point, type of thing.
I mean, listen, dude, I have a giant head, so I understand this strategy more than most people would think. And it has served me okay where I've not died at all in most people's guillotines. Dan, I know we talked about the main event, but the co-main is also something that has been of interest to people. I know you didn't mention any betting lines on that one, but I would just gauge your interest. What are your thoughts just between Dominic and Jan?
Yeah, I'm on Dom, man. The line was a little bit high as far as that goes. The money line was minus 255, which you got to bet $255 if you want to win $100. But outside of my 4 main picks, I'm definitely betting on Dom. I think that his last fight against Jones kind of showed some good things and some bad things. It showed that he fades later in fights. But at this point, I don't think he's going to need the later rounds. I think if he implements his kicking game like he did against Jones, I think he takes this, round 1, round 2. I don't think it needs to go into the later rounds. I think both of their games play directly into each other. Jan likes to play behind that jab, and Dom likes to throw out those high kicks and mix it up to the body. So I think I can see this one ending pretty quickly, and I see Dom getting his hand raised.
I was telling people earlier this week that I think if Jan actually does not win, we should very quickly see if we can usher him into the era of being a new Die Hard villain, because he does look like a pretty decent henchman for a Die Hard movie.
Yeah, you can go to bare knuckle fighting, and it seems like they kind of pump up the bad guys over there.
Bro, I can't even
or something.
All of the bare knuckle fighting to me is something that I want to make fun of until I see how many zeros Paige Van Zandt has in her contract, and I go,
"Oh man, I love it! I love watching that. It's so good. It's like something you're embarrassed to tell other people you watch. It's like when we were in when I was in middle school in like the 90s, and like anime wasn't cool. Like you couldn't really talk about anime because it wasn't cool. Mm-hmm. It's like that's how you feel about bare knuckle fighting. It's like, oh yeah, I watched that. Yeah, like that. I was just flipping the channel it was on.
I think the portion of that is because you can always justify the chess element of grappling or the true sportsman nature of MMA of, man, look at these beasts. When someone gets around to bare knuckle fighting, it's kind of
on the internet. Yeah.
It's essentially our version of monster truck rallies. And I go,
I watch those street beefs videos on YouTube when they pop up too, like, it's entertaining. Who doesn't want to watch like some 45-year-old man like bust out the trailer and his wife beat her and go fight someone in the backyard? Like, let's watch it. I'm here for it. Let's go.
Well, I know that you also have some beef with the internet this week because they took down what video of yours?
What video did they take? Oh, they took down the music on a video. Yeah, this is stupid. I'm so sick of Zuckerberg and his fucking taking over Hawaii shit. I'm so sick of all of it. But just let me live my life, man.
I just thought it was so hilarious to see you put up the happiest of all videos of Fleetwood Mac celebrating life, and then all of a sudden I see you put up something it's just like you could all fucking go to hell out this video, and I go, it's relatable, dude. What a glorious kind of video that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm doing them a favor, man. When was the last time Fleetwood Mac put out an album? Let me put some ears on your music right now. Wow. You should thank me if anything.
Yeah, one of the top selling albums of all time. They need some extra Hubler.
I'm paying him in photo credit type of thing.
It's still the best excuse of all time. I hope that at my funeral, people just literally came over and they go, I'd like to know where I can send extra photo credits to in honor of Raph.
I think I had Marquez on my FanDuel.
Did you?
I think I did because he was cheap on the FanDuel. Have you ever played FanDuel?
I haven't yet. I have not.
It's weird. It's super weird. And it's like you got to make a lineup of 6 fighters. You pick your MVP, and that person earns you 1.5 points, And everyone else on your roster, they get points for takedowns, for significant strikes. They get more points for a finish, that type of thing. And the more favorite a fighter is, the more expensive they are. And there's a salary cap. You can only spend X amount of money. So I think I had Marquez because he was cheap. He was like $8. I was like, take a light heavyweight for $8. Of course, let's go. But I think FanDuel is kind of like that. You kind of have to just take fighters who are valued in a different way. He was pretty cheap on the FanDuel, but he's a light heavyweight. Come on, the significant strikes could be flying. You're going to get some points off of that. So,
well, okay. I know that we are now in the midst of Fight Island for the next essentially month and change is where we are going to be there with them. This is a huge UFC pay-per-view. I know there's a lot of fan interest. So I'm very excited for that. We will continue going on with more bet previews. But do you have any lasting words? I know there were some fights that you didn't mention, but is there anything in here that just kind of spoke to your heart? Because listen, dude, when I see Diego Sanchez on a card, I'm not going to bet on him, but I want to see how it's going to play.
Yeah, but you're not going to bet against him either, because you're looking at a minus 800 on Jake Matthews right now. You got to bet $800 if you want to win $100, just because like people have completely counted Diego out. And my rule of thumb is generally like it's a fist fight. You know what I mean? Yeah. Nobody is that much of a favorite in a fist fight. You know, like maybe if it was like a grown man fighting a child, then yeah, 800, that makes sense. Like there's no way this kid's going to win. But it's still a fist fight between two grown men. You can't tell me that, he doesn't have any chance of winning this fight. So, minus 800, there's no value there. Like there's no way you take that bet unless you're an idiot. So I would stay away from that fight completely unless you want to bet Diego, and then maybe he gets illegally kneed and wins the fight and you cash. Who knows? But I'm staying away from that one entirely. A couple other ones on the card I like. I like Kamer. He's a slight favorite, minus 145 against William Knight. William Knight's coming around with a quick turnaround again. We did see him in his last fight get taken down and then basically hold the gloves of his opponent so he couldn't get choked out. So that was a pretty interesting defense. But when he did get back up to his feet, he threw those, Travis Brown elbows and got a win. I don't know how long his style of jiu-jitsu is going to hold out for him at the top level. So I don't know if, the holding the glove thing is going to work forever. And, with him being a, pretty even odds here, I might take a little bit on Alexa Kamer. Brad Riddle. I'm on Brad Riddle. I think he's going to win that fight, but he's also a minus 315 favorite. Not really feeling the line, not really worth the bet. Kai Kara France, we already went over that one. Dom, I like Israel. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think we've discussed anything with any real value on this card. We've kind of gone over. It's the fights like Diego Sanchez where you just stay the hell away from that.
I wouldn't touch that. I would ask this though. You were so key. We go over this every week. We might need to make this a recurring, which is if you were to tell people to keep their eyes on the lines in between rounds of any of the fights on tonight's card, what would it be?
In this one, I would probably say if Hakeem has a bad first round, if he can't get back to his seat in the first round, he's probably going to go into round two as a pretty significant underdog. I would say that his best chance of winning this fight or finishing this fight is going to be later in the fight, maybe later in round two or early in round three. So if he loses the first round, I would not be too discouraged. I kind of anticipate that because that's when the takedown is going to be fresh. It's going to be easier to hold him down. Everyone's dry. But as they build a sweat, as it goes into later rounds, I feel like his ability to scramble up is going to improve. So if he loses round one, I'm taking him as the underdog going into round two.
That's great stuff. Well, Dan, listen, you've been very kind with your time. Look at this. Everybody, look at this motherfucking graphic every time. I just want to make sure people – I have to call it up, actually. Hold on. Vamp more. This graphic is so good because – bam. Look at it. Every time I see this, I just get so excited. It drops in my email. And, I get a lot of professional emails in my email, but this is the one I'm most excited to see because it tells me it's a fight day. And when it tells me it's a fight day, it also tells me – with great suggestions where to go. And I already got to tell you guys, we've won $6 based off of Dan's picks. And that's just if you're betting the base level. So who knows? You start taking some of these fortunes and maybe you listen to Dan and you go, I hear what you said about Diego Sanchez, Dan. Wink, put money on that. Look at how much money you're going to end up getting, even though you could tell Dan said 100%.
Do not bet money on Diego Sanchez. I don't want my name on that. No, do not bet money on Diego Sanchez.
Listen, dude, I got to do things for the gram, and I know that will come back to play me very well in the future. But anyway, Dan, do you have any lasting thoughts you want to say before we get you on out of here to enjoy the fight tonight, sir?
Hoping that we keep it going, hoping that Izzy gets the victory that I think he rightfully deserves, and hopefully we'll have some more good news to talk about next week.
Absolutely. I'm looking at Izzy and Dom, and if that's happening tonight, I'm going to be in a great mood. And if it doesn't happen tonight, we'll assess where we are. But I think those two, I had a lot of people ask me, who do I have? And I'm way more of the mindset of, well, I'm going to tell you who I'm rooting for, because sometimes when I bet and people listen to that, I've had people in the past listen to us and say, hey, Raph, I bet on this person. And I go, I never said to bet on them. You're an idiot. That was your choice. This is a different segment. So we bring in somebody like you who has a proven record and who does continuously good things. Well, Dan, we thank you enough for today. Great stuff as always, sir. We will see you back next week, sir.
All right. Take care.
Have a great rest of your day. All right, Dan Hubler, everybody. Bam! Look at this shit. We are already off to the races. It is a great day for grappling. My name's Raph Esparza. Let's take care of all the stuff that we literally just powered through at the top of the broadcast. Obviously, Dan started off with us. We'll go ahead and do an ad sponsor mention in just a minute. But before we do, let's do some other housekeeping. I'm going to show you guys a photo of who you voted for on the interwebs on the verbal tap for this next fight, which, by the way, I had somebody message me and they're like, these guys are not fighters. And I said, oh. And they go, no, neither of these guys looks like a UFC fighter. And I just think to myself, that's all in the eye of the beholder here, people. So I'm going to show you a photo. You can see them up on the brackets now over on the tail of the tape that they got going on. But this is the information that I can work off of, that somebody saw it and said, under no circumstances do I think either of these guys is a UFC fighter. Make the decision for yourself here, people. Let's go ahead and look at it. This was the way the polling broke down on the interwebs. So look at that. 72% is going for Esponino on this match, who looks like he is the stunt double on Narcos, versus just 28% for Hughes. So that is the amount of folks that we have coming through on this one. We're going to be going live on the Instagram in just a second. We're going to try something new for the Instagram tonight. Look at this. Look at it. Yeah. Look. Well, all right. You can't even see it that well. Let's get that out of the picture. Got a little lapel mic so that the sound is top quality for those folks who are going to be tuning in there, because we want to make sure, if there's one thing you know about this show, it's our commitment to quality. That's a good joke. Anyway, I don't know if you guys can see this in the background, but look at the lights that they've put up for this UFC Fight Island. It looks immaculate. So yes, we will tell you guys that it is now closed because we've already done the first fight for those who were looking to go ahead and get in on the betting lines for the giveaway that we're doing. So we'll keep you updated on that way later tonight if I am not that drunk. But we move to the second fight of the evening, which is Juan Esponino versus Jeff Hughes. I'll go ahead and put that banner up so that we all know exactly where we are at this moment and juncture. But we're glad you joined us today. This is a great day. We've already got one fight down the pipeline. I believe this is an 11-fight sort of card. And, there's going to be a lot to look at here. So Esponino is in the yellow trunks, and Hughes is coming through in the blue trunks. Just in case you're confused, one of them has luscious, amazing, glorious, highlighted hair. And the other dude, he's got an okay beard. We can say that about him. Let's go ahead and switch things up right now. We're going to go live as... Oh, I also got a haircut. I don't know if we made too big of a deal on that one. I look kind of like a normal person again. Some good things to remind you guys about. If you give us a like and a share on Facebook, we will give you a toast on air, just like we do those fighters who get finishes. Maybe Esponino is going to work on a finish right now. Remains to be seen, but super stoked that we're able to go ahead and talk about it. Nice body lock on him, and the way he's entangled his legs around Hughes's right leg is making it very difficult for Hughes to get a base to get back up. So he is passing guard quite nicely. And if you guys want to keep an eye over on the Sapateiro, I am not sure if they have already finished. I did not expect that we were going to be this close on time, so I didn't really get a ton of time to go ahead and check that out. Of course, we're looking to find out if either Keith Krikorian or Emil Fischer takes home the victory on that one. So I'm going to look that up while we watch Esponino start to go to work in turtle of one Hughes. Hughes gets back up very nicely and is maybe going to get ragdolled down. Esponino with a very nice takedown forces him back down to the ground. And then, of course, later this evening, there will be the Third Coast Grappling all-female bracket that I'm very excited about. But yes, we'll be toasting those fighters who get finishes, that's knockouts or submissions within regulation. So give us a like and a share. We toast you just like we toast them. Already going to give some thanks and shout outs over to Becky, George, Amon, and Joffrey. Of course, Megan as well. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you all. If you guys give us the like and the share, we will go ahead and take care of you just like we do those folks. Back to the action. You have Espino pushing up against the cage. And this is very, very debilitating for one Hughes. So I'm also looking, it does look like this is Keith versus Emil on the Sapateiro. I think this is their main event. So I'm going to kind of walk you through it. Emil, of course, kind of playing guard, kind of rolling on his back, kind of like a caterpillar right now. So it's a little mix between multiple different genres. For them, Keith Krikorian working the pass over on that side. Hello to you over on Periscope. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to go live now on the Instagram. Espino is working on going to mount, and while at the same time, just making pressure very difficult for Hughes, who gave up the back and somehow will find his way back up again, only to get bulldozed back down. Hey, what's up, everybody on Instagram? It's your good friend, Rafa Esparza. What's up, Ryan Cashman? Good to see you, bud. Were you on a commercial? Is that what I saw? Oh, we have a submission here. That is a nice finish from one Espino, which goes, by the way, with those of you in the poll, 72% of you were correct. The rest of you, dead to me. Which honestly is only 28%, so that's not too bad. I can stand to have 28% of people dead to us. Espino looking super nice, though. Beautifully done. As he goes around to get some celebration, he goes over to Hughes to shake his hand. Let's see that finish over on that side. Meanwhile, Keith being very cautious of a very tricky Emil Fischer. What's up, G-Baby? Good to see you, bud. Looks like Emil is opting to go for the pancake guard. Or what do we call that? The some stupid guard. Oh, shit. Did he do that with 100 kilos? Oh, shit. Yeah, it's essentially like a makeshift variation of tons of Josh Barnett chest pressure, almost with that catch wrestling, and at the same time, just a little element of a head and arm choke, but really, that's a crank that's really winning it for Espino. Good work for him. Woo! We'll go ahead and give that one a cheers in just a second, but big up to the narco stunt double, Juan Espino. Look for him. That was pretty dope. All right, let's kill this little bracket over here. Those of you tuning in right now, my name is Rafa Esparza. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be here all night watching both Sapateiro, UFC 253, prelims, and main card. And we're going to be around for the Third Coast Grappling all-female kumite. Mostly. I can't promise you I'm going to be not drunk the entire time. I may get too drunk, and I might take a nap. We'll see. We're going to have some friends stopping in a little bit later, so do not worry about that. But for the interim, looks like Emil is trying to take the leg of one Keith Krikorian. It is not looking like he is in immediate danger, but Keith is starting to rechamber and fire. Our thanks to everybody who's watching over the Sapateiro. That's one of our friends, Josh LaDouche, who is normally with us. He is going and putting a production together that does have commentary with our good friend Quentin Rosenzweig, and I forgot who the other person is, but it sounds rough. Like it's just a little blown out. So our thanks and love and appreciation to them. Keith has already passed. Now it's going to maybe fall down for a foot lock, but instead opts for a good pass here. Emil keeping a decent enough of a guard, but this is not something that you really want to play too much with Keith. He tries to come up on it. Keith smashes him back down very quickly, starts to work to maybe isolate an arm here. It's looking very valid. What's up, Grapple? Good to see you, bud. Ooh. And one of the things that is important, though, Emil kind of rushes back to a guard, gets it. Keith grabs the leg for a split second, opts to kind of rolling stooges away his round him, and now is pushing down on one of the legs. And it is interesting to watch the different grappling styles here because, you know, Keith definitely has the mop on the head. Definitely grown out his hair due to Corona. And Emil Fischer just looks like he's a Technicolor dream coat. Just with the amount of bright colors, compliments of one Mirkatsu. So, That is what's happening over on this side. They're also interviewing Juan Esponino, so I'll give you a quick rundown of what it is he's saying. Keith once again passing. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think Juan is saying something to the effect he's lost a lot of time since the surgery and the pandemic. So, of course, tonight they will have everybody giving their post-fight interviews with the Octagon in with Jon Anik. So, just in case you're confused, that was a directive that went throughout the week. So now they're going to ask him about the position, and that's something I'm very interested in hearing him talk about. He says he hits it all the time. He said, yeah, it seemed like a good time to do it. Jon Anik is saying, you got all this heavyweight momentum back, which, by the way, hashtag heavyweight momentum. That's a thing. I think Jon Anik might have asked for too much when he's like, who do you want to take? And he's like, I guess I'll take anybody who's around. He goes, I don't think we have any other heavyweights. So, oops. Weird to ask you that question, bro. Anyway, back down at Sapateiro, Keith is now standing up with Emil Fischer, who does not look like he really wants to waste time wrestling with Keith. And Keith is doing a decent job of trying to get in some grips here to try and break him down. Emil's posture is very, very impressive, though. That is something to behold. By the way, those of you watching on Instagram, not only do we have the UFC going on, we have the Sapateiro where Keith Krikorian is currently battling against Emil Fischer. So we will walk you through both of these things. As they are happening, looks like they are going, I can't tell if this is like an overtime. They did take a momentary break. Keith is working still to pass the guard of Emil, who always seems to be very solid at re-guarding and getting his wits about him. So the UFC is going to probably take a few minutes to stall, which means they're going to remind you to pay for the pay-per-view this evening. If you haven't done so, go do it. Or if you're planning to watch it through nefarious sort of mechanisms, that's fine. Just don't tell me about it and don't come asking us for the link. We're not going to lose our status here just because you're asking for the link. I will, however, tell you, I can't stop you if you're going to do it with somebody else. So there is that. Megan O'Leary is also very nicely walking us through some of the pre-fight information that I cannot hear, so I have no idea what she's talking about. Keith is very nicely still trying to pass here. Emil, the secret to his success thus far in has been excellent use of upper body frames. A lot of people don't do this as well. Keith, for a split second, thought about going for an armbar, will not take the bait, and opts to go and back up ever so slightly. Meanwhile, do you remember when Conor McGregor was a thing? It seems like they're taking it down a little bit through highlights of UFC superstars. Maybe it's a how did we get here sort of thing. Anyway, just as a reminder, like and a share, we give you a toast. We're going to have to give a toast to Juan Esponino in just a second. Though it does occur to me now that I understand he knows more English than I thought he does. We might walk down some of the jokes that we had. So anyway, we got some angry people who are watching the Sapateiro who are putting angry faces because they're probably not just seeing crazy grappling happening in front of them. Would you ever two different styles? You know, Keith is somebody who's a workhorse who has a lot of competition under his experience, under his belt. Emil also has a good amount of competition, but there's an issue that Emil has, which is he trains with a lot of really good people that put him in great positions where he can do dumb shit like this. And it's just fine. I wouldn't suggest this for a number of people. And now Emil might be in, looked like for a split second, he was kind of in on a triangle. Keith may opt to maybe go to an armbar here. He is starting to isolate it. Keith has a good grip here. He's just trying to move his leg to complement it just ever so slightly. With his other arm, he does let it go. Yeah, I think at this point now they're going to start doing an EBI overtime. Okay, so that's what's happening right now. Appears that we have new neighbors underneath us, as they're probably, who knows, maybe they're watching the UFC too. Who knows? But they're laughing and yucking around, which means I can literally be louder here tonight. And I also can get drunker and be belligerent. So take that. I'm going to stomp all over this fucking carpet as we watch it. Emil's trying to go for an armbar. Keith spins out of it. Does seem to move very nicely. His movement is just excellent there. That's what it is. It is EBI overtime indeed. I looked down for a split second and saw that Keith was in on an armbar, and I thought, how did we get there? EBI overtime. That's how, kids. So Keith is already in on a body triangle here, which if we're looking at ride time, oh no. Yeah, Emil made a tactical error, which was lifting his neck, which is going to give Keith an unhealthy amount of time to get a rear naked choke, and he does get it, which does mean, I believe, Keith is your winner of the Sapateiro belt, whatever belt he is. I don't know what weight this is, honestly. It is kind of weird because earlier this week I did get the opportunity to interview Emil Fischer. Keith is now Keith 2 belts as he's wearing them right there. So yeah, 2 different divisions. Good for Keith, man. So anyway, Emil is in the middle of the frame. I wish he would get outside of it. Josh LeDuc is doing some dumb shit in front of the camera. Keith looks moderately entertained by it, but not too stylistically tired of it. I think he's being nice and polite. All right, we're about to transition to the next set of prelims, it looks like. So this is going to be a very interesting evening here, kids. I don't know if the Sapateiro is done. So we're going to be figuring it out as we go along. But yes, ESPN 2 will take us to our next, is this 4 set of prelims? I think it is. Anyway, a like and a share will get you a toast. And yeah, I think that's pretty much what we got going on. So if you're watching us on Instagram, hello, thank you guys. Hopefully you're having a great evening. If you're watching us over on the Facebook, the YouTube, the Periscope, welcome indeed. We've already got a great show for you. Dan was able to walk us through a number of very important bets. I like D Buckface. That's an interesting name, sir. So we're just waiting on a few things here, waiting to see if this is going to be the end of it. Megan, thank you so much for your share. We're going to take care of you in a minute. The other person who shared it will be on the show in just a little bit, so I don't want to do my toast until he makes it on the air. I just think that's a nicer variation of something to do. I should probably plug in some names. I'll go ahead and send him a note. But yeah, fam, that's what we're doing here today. This has already been a great start to our day. Who do you have in this next fight? Because I can show you who the internet, according to our calculations, thinks is going to win. And right now, there is a 64% favorite. Who do you think that favorite is for this next fight coming up? And let me go ahead and put the names just in case you're unfamiliar. But this is the one that I think Dan was kind of alluding to, that said, man, one of these guys was not a bad venture for him to go ahead and try and bet on. So I'm going to put that up for you guys to see. And let's see if you guys agree with it. Do you guys ever do training where you get a song stuck in your head? Today, I got like my homie like plays all this 70s classic rock. And so I essentially have BTO and like Don't Fear the Reaper in my head, where I'm just kind of like, God damn it, I cannot get that shit out of my head right now. Nope, that's not the one that we want to pull up. Let's share screen with a brand new poll result. Of course, you guys were pretty right on the money in terms of who you thought that last fight was going to win. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of props. Good for you, Verbal Tap fans. Y'all be smart sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Here's what we go. In our latest poll results on this one, just in case you're curious, 64% of you think that Knight is going to walk away with it. But Dan was signaling that Kamer may not be a bad bet for your money. So it's a real little push and pull between these two. I'm curious, in our poll section here, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the comment section so that you guys can see it. Who do you have? Knight or, and I'm sorry, Instagram, I don't have funny polls that I can put up, at least not real time. One day, maybe. But Instagram, be like that, y'all. All right, that just went out to all three of the different places that we are streaming it. Hey, what's up, Lyric G20? We are currently broadcasting on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and now on the Verbal Tap podcast Instagram. So if you're joining us from any of those places, thank you so much for coming along. We're having some fun. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little cheers over to Juan Espino. Hey, Juan, this cheers goes out to you, good sir. First and foremost, that chest pressure, woo, you got that cash wrestling going on there, sir. And I'd like to think, you're a guy who looks like you're a stunt double on Narcos, but holy fuck, do you pack a punch. So I want to say this, man, all respect due. You are a great competitor. Loved watching your fight. Cheers to you, good sir. Here's to many more. And here's hoping they find you somebody to fight while on Fight Island. It's called Fight Island for a reason. They should have more people for you to fight. Anyway, cheers to you, bud. That's how it works. You give us a like and a share, you get a toast just like those folks. Megan's about to get one in a second. I don't want to tell you when. It's probably soon. But just chill. It's going to happen here, kids. So just to remind myself, we did have some folks who went Knight. Let me just double check. I bracketed those. I did not group those together. Y'all, I'd just be slipping sometimes. Esponino and Hughes, just to make sure. Yeah. I hate it when these guys come in to vote at the very last second. Because they always vote at a point where I'm like, do y'all even know who you're voting for? Like, at least take the time to research some of the fighters, and I promise you, you will have better results. And it is nice when I see people like our good friend, Senor El Presidente himself, when Dan Hubler got one of those picks rights in this. So he was correct on the Espino fight. So props to Dan. As we're about to get into this first fight, I'm going to make sure that we have everybody bunched and bracketed so that way we get a good standing of who voted for who, because surprise to you who are watching, if you participated in the polls, you're not going to win like the main prize that we give to our main people, but we're going to give you guys a prize. So whoever gets the most right on that, we'll single out a couple people, not a ton of them, but let's see how many people win on them, and they'll figure out what prizes we will be sending out to folks. So it pays to pay attention and to actually, do the thing. When you pay attention, great things will happen. All right, friends, we're going to go ahead and message on over to our good friend, Senor Woods. Whenever you're good. Good, sir. So we got Adam Woods, who'll be joining us in a little bit. Sent him a message. Hopefully we get him in right as they get to that first fight. I told him about 5:15. I might be right. Let's see where we are on the time. It is 5:03. Perfect. Even better. So we're going to be keeping a lookout for him, as this is LIVE live, my friends. We also need to give a shout out to our sponsors. That is our good friends over at NokiBJJGear.com. Use the promotional code Grappling Hour, 15 to take. That's right, you guessed it, 15% off of whatever you put in your cart. Now, they're the folks who are bringing this very nice giveaway that we do together. So we always want to give them a big shout out as we watch the fights here tonight. And I want to make sure that you guys know we give a big shout out to you as well. So this cheers goes on out to you, Megan. Cheers to you, Megan. here's why. A lot of people talk the talk, but you're here week in, week out, having fun with us, yelling out, talking shit to people. And more importantly, I'm kind of counting on you to watch Third Coast Grappling with us, because given how hype I am for some of this card, I might forget. And we want to make sure that we cover them because they're our friends. And this is an all-female bracket, which is fucking badass. So cheers to them and cheers to you guys. Well, bam. And in case you're wondering what I am drinking here tonight, I'll be honest with you. This is the Trade Secrets Mystery Fruit Tart. So I was really excited about this one. It's okay. But the reason why I'm a little disappointed is as follows. First of all, I love a good sour, but good sours in cans, I wish them to be good. They're just not always that great. Here's what it says on this. The reason why it's disappointing is because they actually have a can you guess the mystery fruits, and they have a QR code that you can scan to go elect it. So it's got kind of an interactive element to it that I thought, that's fucking awesome. So I really wanted to enjoy this beer, and, I kind of so enjoy it. I don't dislike it. I just kind of think, it's a beer. I'm trying to wonder if I like it better as the night goes on. We'll have to see. What is up, Ashley MMA? Good to see you. We're here covering all things Fight Night, aka UFC 253 prelims. Coming up in just a few seconds, we're going to see the very next fight. So anyway, to you guys who are watching at home, please feel free to send us questions, comments, hints, concerns, allegations, all that good stuff. This, again, wish it was a little better, but we're gonna get past it. Yeah, we're gonna make do. It is beer, so that is helpful. It might also be that I trained so hard today that my brain is like, no, you probably need more food, buddy. What are you gonna do? So anyway, ready for takeoff. They've already got, William Knight and a Kamer for 926. There are going to be several people who were fighting on the, Dana White's Contender Series. Okay. Interesting. Just keeping an eye on those who are going to be debuting over the weekend. Or the next few weeks over on the Fight Island cards. So right now, I do have a walkout happening. Not yet. I'm sorry. It was a fake walkout. It was a walkout from William Knight on the previous UFC television. All right. That's the new information I have for you guys. Also, we told you guys that 65% of you think that one Knight is going to take it, whereas Kamer has only 35% of your support, which I don't think is sad. It's interesting. It's just we'll see where you guys stand by the end of this evening. Of course, our good friends over at Third Coast Grappling start tonight at, I believe it's 6 p.m. Best Coast time, so I think it's probably at the top of this hour. Now, here's where things get confusing. Because my wife was asking me, she's like, are you doing this again tomorrow? And I said, I don't think so. Oh, wait, no, I am. When I said I was, it was because I thought that Polaris starts tomorrow at noon, East Coast time. Or actually, I thought it was supposed to be our time. I think I was very misinformed. And this is probably my fault, so I'll blame myself. I think I was highly misinformed as to when Polaris starts, because I was going to base my whole training tomorrow on when Polaris is going down. And now I'm a little like, am I even going to do a fight companion for that one? Because, yeah, it says 9:27 at 12 p.m. It says it's 18 hours away. So, yeah, I think that's the case. I think I am going to do a fight pass, fight companion for tomorrow's Polaris that starts at noon, our time in the West Coast. I'll just double check this one more time to make sure. It'd be nice if Polaris actually put up something on their Instagram that told all of us across the pond what time that they're supposed to be going. But, you know, who's complaining here? Their big thing is they're doing squads. So it says 8 p.m. 8 p.m. GMT. Yeah, they put what that is. They just don't say what time 8 p.m. pertains to. Would love to support y'all. But anyway, yes, if there is something tomorrow and I'm not too drunk and I'm not too tired and I can get some training in, I will consider doing a Polaris watch along. I'm figuring out my scheduling. Anyway, that's enough about me. I'm not even sure. I just had to take that time to look away for a few seconds. Our guest might have been in the room, and I apologize if he was waiting at any given point. But I want to send a first compliment to him before we bring him on. Here's why. Not only do we do this every day, but it looks like he does this every day, which is great. It's not easy to do. These things are hard to line up. And more importantly, I should be holding my glass as I do this. Yes, he shared this, so I have to do it. Cheers. But he's lined up some spectacular guests, a number of whom look like they're going to be on Josh Barnett, including him as well. His blood sport that's happening, which is a huge pro wrestling event that makes me so happy to see him doing big things. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show for the very first time for our fight companion needs one, according to Woods. Adam, how are you doing, sir?
What's good, party people? Pleasure to be on the Grappling Hour. My goodness, I'm the least aesthetically looking host of all things podcasts.
I think you know that's not true. So I appreciate you coming in hot, but I can name 5 other uglier hosts that have no business being on any form of visual television. I know we're in a little bit of a break. They're going to come back with the fight, but I do want to tell you this. I listened to a lot of your interview with Simon that I thought, man, that was spectacular. So I thought you did a really good job on that one, man.
I appreciate that. And funny enough, that was actually 2 years to the day that I actually interviewed him for Bumps and Bruises, which is a local show here in LA. And, for whatever reason, that interview was left on the cutting room floor, never to be released.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yes. So with that all being said, I think it was a kind of a it was definitely poetic justice to have him 2 years on my podcast. So that was fun.
I mean, hey, it paid off because he stayed with you for what, an hour and 40 minutes. I made my way through 40 of it. I still have to go bookmark the last half. But let me do this real quick. Hey, if you're watching on Instagram, we're leaving now. I love you guys. I just wanted to make sure that if you are going to watch along, watch with us. You can find us at Grappling Hour on Periscope, Twitter. No, that's the same one. YouTube and Facebook. Anyway, does he have gum in his mouth?
Oh, no. It's kind of, yeah.
For a split second, I was like, who the fuck's letting him? I guess everything's legal on Fight Island. No, but what I was going to tell you is I watched part of it. I thought that you were good. I thought that he clearly felt comfortable to give you enough stuff. And one of the hardest things about this gig is getting people who both don't know how to present themselves and then other people who do know how to present themselves, but maybe don't know how to adjust to a different format. So it's tricky sometimes to get like people who are used to cutting promos and saying, that's cool. And you can definitely get yourself over, but we need to kind of communicate to people who are probably interested about some other things. And I thought that was very nice that you were able to kind of, keep him adjusted here because he definitely wanted to talk. But I thought that you were able to get some things out of him that even sometimes I saw in your face. You did the interview, or like, oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know we were going to go here, but here we are.
No, 100%. And it's, and it's funny. Like, as William Knight and Alaska Kamur is about to start, I literally give him 2 minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to answer fan questions, blah, blah, blah. And I will dump them down with like a bunch of like useless wrestling knowledge that I have. And that usually ends up happening. So that's great.
And of course, I mean, you've been plugging the blood sport. We'll come back to the fight in a second here. I just want to give you a little shine time before we go ahead and go back to this fight. We'll let them feel each other out. But you've been plugging. Ooh, it was a beautiful kick that did take him down. That's my doing.
Yeah, this one isn't gonna. Oh, and William Knight doing exactly what William Knight does. We saw it on the Contender Series. He just, I mean, almost like one Khamzat Chimaev, where he just kind of comes in and just like, rah, like what you see is what you get out of him.
I mean, Knight is just, dude, full Tasmanian devil mode right now. Aleska's like, yo, could you let me go so maybe I could get my striking in? Because do you see these tie shorts? I definitely want to try and throw some kicks here if I can. But if you're pushing me up against this cage and just trying to render this down, I am going to be problematically stifled. So he had some time to kind of reverse on the cage and now gets his own position reversed. We'll let them hang out for a second. So, yeah, you've been plugging all these people from Bloodsport. Are you going to be going to Bloodsport? Like, I don't know how that's even happening now.
Man. I wish. I totally wish. I'm not even sure because thankfully, none other than the only person, I mean, especially in heavyweight history, to hold the Metamoris heavyweight IWGP third belts, UFC heavyweight champion, King of Pancrase, and there's probably one that I'm forgetting. He's probably like a champion in some weird Iowa federation or what have you, but none other than the War Master Josh Barnett. When I had him on, I was just like, I want everyone for Bloodsport because I mark out more so than any other wrestling deal going on right now. Bloodsport is my ish, right? So I was just like, yeah. So actually, my golden goose is either Mox or Harry Smith. But with Harry Smith, I'm going to go down wormholes. My kid, his name is Owen, so I'm going to talk about like the dungeon and Brett being it's so again, I'm holding out.
I mean, listen, dude, if there's anybody who can give you that credibility, even having an interview with Josh, not him even putting in a good word, just having the interview is usually the little bit of that like deciding factor when sometimes you get a guest who doesn't know who you are, and you have a moment where you go, you may not know who I am, but I know more about you than most people who will interview you. So if you're going to talk to anybody, I promise you want to talk to me because it'll be a fantastic interview. So we listen, dude, that never stops. It's my least favorite part about doing this is booking people and having to constantly introduce myself because I enjoy doing this. I enjoy being, present and doing the interviews. But I hate having to introduce myself, especially in the era of COVID when I can't meet people physically and do that. Oh, we naturally ran into each other. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'd always love to do an interview. If not now, let's book it in the future. As opposed to COVID, which is, hi, I don't know if you see this or not. Fuck you. Do my show. Your guillotine's half good. If you don't do my show, I'm just going to continue talking shit about you. So... respectfully yours, Rafa Sparza. And sometimes it works and sometimes it does not.
No, I mean, I've been there, and sometimes, I mean, because doing both, just like you do jiu-jitsu and MMA and a litany of other things. I mean, I don't know how Rafa does it all, but he somehow does it. But with that all being said, it's funny because it's actually like the no-names out of, I don't know, Middle America or whatever that has like 116 followers on Instagram and 10 of them are fake accounts and bots of their mom. That's literally happened. But my ace in the hole prior to Barnett is like, hey, I'm this guy, blah, 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 blah. And hey, I've done stuff with Frank Trigg and I'll send him that one, right? And then there's a generation that doesn't know Frank Trigg, right? So since I've gotten Barnett, I shoot him that one and be like, yo, if Barnett did, a minute, an hour 10 with me, and you just want to do 15, okay, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, right now, Brandon Royval is my pick for the third from the top because he's done my podcast and Kaikara France hasn't. So there's that.
Oh man, yeah, that's a tough one. I've always adapted the thing of when people ask, "Well, like, who are you rooting for?" I was like, "Depends. Who's come on my show more recently, and who's going to come on my show next week? That's who gets my vote." So, hey, listen, I tell these guys I end up interviewing rivals at a certain point, and I've had some of them get their feelings hurt when we didn't pick them. And I was like, are you really hurt by this? Like, legitimately ask yourself this question. You fight for a living and you listen to my show for validation for yourself. If you need that, then maybe I can offer you an apology just to make you feel better. But then I'm handing you a participation feelings trophy. And I don't really feel like doing that. So you're either in for it or you're not. And honestly, by the time I get around to where your feelings really hurt, they go, no, just, I thought we had something and that you liked me. And I was like, I still like you. Get over it, Yeah. So I don't know, man.
No, man. It's funny because the biggest and baddest and brightest, they tend to be the most insecure. I mean, that's me too. Like every time I get around you, I'm like, this, I'm kind of in my domain and what have you. So it's a little bit more comfortable. Holy heck, that kick by Kmart. Oh,
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, there are people that have, done more things than I have, right? And I mark out over them, right? Yeah. I mean, there is a picture on the interwebs of you, me, and the gals from the formerly known, what is it, Matt Therapy podcast? Donna and Becky. And I was like, one day, I'll be. I don't even still 4 years later. I don't think I'm on your guys' level, but at some point, some semblance of me earning my place at the table.
I'll tell you this much, Adam. It happens quicker than you think, and here's why. Because we didn't expect to be the old guys now. Like now that's something we deal with, which is we have people coming up and telling us, they'll be like, oh man, I grew up listening to you. I was like, you're still growing up. Shut up. We're still around. We're not dead. We didn't stop doing it. It's not like we released our best, greatest hits in 1984 and we've been traveling on those. We're still current. It's just we are getting to an era where it does freak me out. And again, you're very nice whenever we run into each other and you'll say a nice complimentary thing. And I appreciate that. But, it's kind of like, here's the reason why I don't kill it right off the bat, because I hate that stuff. But I also know how few people do our jobs. So it is my hope that at some point in the next year and a half, you're going to get those guys too. You just stick around and then it happens. So the hard part for me is when I see these goons who are fighters now, and I just kind of laugh because they'll look at me and they go, hey, I really want to book you on the show. And they go, I've been waiting for this. And I go, oh, okay. They're like, yeah, I've always wanted to be interviewed by you. And I go, oh, cool. Well, you are now. So it's more you than me. It's just now we get to just chat and have fun. And, that's where we're going to go. And that's what we're going to do.
I think the biggest, not the biggest, because there have been some noble things that have happened in my, it's so weenie to say, but 4-year career, right? Mm-hmm. But I actually had Jordan Azardia out of Saxon Muay Thai before his last fight for SmartStar said, I have you on my vision board. I have John King basically announcing my name, blah, 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 and then having an interview with you after. That's in my vision board. And I was just like, and he did it. He told me right before he went in the cage, and he did it. And I was like, what in the hell? Yeah. So, it's fun.
That's pretty amazing, man. And again, it's just going to keep happening because a lot of the times, it's hard to explain to the athletes, but it's like, we don't get in there and fight like they do, but we tend to be at almost every event. And when that happens, you want to see them succeed. You get excited for them. You get happy. And then when they lose, sometimes you get bummed and you're just kind of like, well, I don't know what to tell you other than you're still a good fighter. You just didn't win today. So we just got to kind of navigate that and do something else. But I'll tell you this much. As a result of that up and down ride sort of a situation, that is part of the reason why the emotions get high when they go, man, I just can't wait to do an interview with you because this is going to be so cool. And it's like, yeah, it means you won the fight. It means good shit's going to happen now. So we get to have fun and celebrate. And, it's always kind of a nice little compliment to us. But I will tell you, compared to other sports, we don't really scratch the surface. Like, there have been days when I'll put out a show and I go, man, that's one of the best interviews. If I was on the NBA, that would have 5 million views. But we're growing a sport here, and a lot of the times we're baby birding the new generation of stars who sometimes don't know how to make a full sentence. And, that's why they don't forget who you are. So you get those nice things going on. I'm going to ask you a question though, right now, which is 2 rounds in on this fight. What are you seeing that you're enjoying from William Knight thus far in?
William Knight obviously I didn't know too much of him prior to his, entry into the Dana White Contender Series. And actually, the Dana White Contender Series isn't my favorite way of a fighter getting in, because we look at, obviously, Jalen Turner, Roosevelt Roberts, Daniel Rodriguez. Yes, those are local guys. Those are our friends, right? But, come on. Jacob Rosales, right? He fought on a, busted up leg. What's his name? Christopher Curtis, who went on to professional PFL, right? Literally broke his hand, right? And super kicked the shit out of his opponent with a broken hand. And he doesn't get the call? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What's the prestige of going on Contender Series or looking for a fight or what have you when you don't get the call and you do exactly what Dana White says he wants you to do? Oof.
Oh, sorry. I was on mute. I was trying to give you the floor, so I didn't want to overspeak you. What I was looking at, though, was what I was trying to say here was, if you look at the history of the Ultimate Fighter, that used to be the entryway to people getting into the UFC, right? However, that costs a lot of money. So that's why when Dana says, yeah, I could do 1 million of those Dana White Contender Series things, because it's got the reality show element. It's got the whole, like, who is he going to pick? Like, he's going to go back into the little room as if he's going to talk to the banker from Deal or No Deal. It's got reality gimmicky schmaltziness. So it's always like, he really needs this because he's got a girlfriend. And you know how they are. Like, there's always a weird story that they're starting to get you part of. And I do enjoy getting to know people very quickly. And I do like the fact that it is more knowing the fighters about their talent than maybe watching 2 months of them go nuts in a house, because that's what we were used to. So the regular avenues of people finding their way into the UFC, they just kind of change with the times. And more importantly, I was like, dude, they must save so much money just in terms of production, between the cost effectiveness of a full Ultimate Fighter season, which then tells you have to get 2 coaches who bring their camps and that money, and then at the very end of it say, you guys want to fight? It'd really help us if you did. So I don't think that doesn't have a place anymore. I just think that that's the whole reason you've seen Dana talk about this. So I do think that they have mentioned after Fight Island, they are looking at returning a revamped Ultimate Fighter, and we've seen it go live before, but I don't mind it being the entryway to it. But you do see it having way more prominence in the era of COVID, where they go, what's your name? What do? You kick good? Get in there, kid.
Yeah. No, that's literally it. And Oh man, it looks like Knight's gas tank is really being tested. Kind of grappling prowess of Gamer. But it's weird, right? Because pre-COVID, right? And I hate to. That's like the buzz thing with every podcast and interview. But I mean, there's no linear way, right, to get into MMA and combat sports, and especially now with COVID and Fight Island. That first run of Fight Island shows, you saw guys with like lopsided records and whatever, and they're getting the call just because they can make the travel. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's nuts. Dude, Knight's impressing me. Because I thought his gas tank was going to be in question, but I mean, he's trying for takedowns, and he might just he got it. Hell yes. It's like I don't know, like a kid that stuttered in your class and doesn't stutter. That was that for me.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to call him the kid who had special needs and went on a different bus. You said that.
No, not at all.
What I will tell you is watching him very, very systematically find ways to get the takedowns, put the pressure on. He's been very consistent on that, and a lot of these things have been very, very fun to watch. I think the finishing rate is very difficult because you've seen how quickly both of these guys have tried to both cover up and make sure that they're safe so that the grappling won't be the way that they're going to end up losing the fight thus far in. So I've been pleased with it. And I would tell you this, our fans that we do put up these polls for did have some insight. So this is a good representative number, I would say. But look at this. Hold on. Let me put you in here too. This is the number that we got. I'll take that out. 64% of our responders said that they believed that Knight was going to win.
That's I think that's pretty accurate. Now, I love how you mentioned that they were responders. So would the first person to put in place a vote, would they be technically a first responder?
Yeah, I did. Somebody who, when we do our giveaways, I did a thing where I made sure once they sent it in, dude, they finished, they sent us back their ballot in like 4 or 5 minutes after I put it up. And normally I think to myself, like, dude, if I was filling that out, I got to circle, I got to write names. I probably think, oh, do I need to go do more research? What do I need to do? And then all of a sudden I saw them do that. And I go, were you ready for this? And they were like, no, I just did. And I go, well, you were first. And he was like, nice. And I go, yeah, of course, you did a great job. I just laugh because I know how long I have to like almost go off on my own, think about it. And I try to do 2 different variations. When we do verbal tap and we do an over under Kevin sort of segment, I try not to research at all so that it's just my initial instincts. And if I don't know a fighter, I just don't know them. I don't try to pretend like, oh, okay, I've been watching this guy since 2014. I am clearly familiar with their record. Sometimes I forget things. Sometimes that's it. So that's one. But if we get to stuff like this, or we get to a point where people are listening and I know that they're going to kind of hear who our picks are, sometimes I'll like spend like 30 minutes being like, but what do I really think's happening? And I got to tell you, man, the best amount of times that I have done my like pre-fight, who's going to win sort of stuff is normally when I'm training with people, like going and going with other trainers and fighters and grapplers. You know, it's those moments in between the actual rolling or training that I kind of go, oh, I've informed myself. Like in talking it out, I hear myself doing it like this. And we have a unanimous decision. And
yes,
no surprise here, but it is consistent with the folks. Hold on, I'm going to ask about this dog in a second, though. Tell me, what is this dog's name and how long have you had the dog?
So this is Pugsley Fugging Woods, and Fugging. He is been with the Woods family for about a week and a half. This is actually his worldwide kind of interweb debut. Nobody's seen him. So that's it. I've always wanted a pug, and I did it during quarantine, which but he's turned into Cujo though. He literally knocked my set off, bit my finger, just in the 15 minutes that we've been talking. So
I got news for you. It does not get better. And for example, this may be revealing a little bit about my situation, but right as I was about to start, my dog, Lucy, basically as I'm about to press play, goes to her pee pad and decides I'm going to poop now, which now sets me back another minute 30 to clean everything up, make sure she's good, wash my hands super thoroughly, come back over here, look at her, make sure I've cleaned her up as well. And I think to myself, this is my life. This is what I do. A lot of people wouldn't know that magic happens, but you will find that right as you're about to go live, do not be surprised if your dog is like, oh, are you about to go live? I'm about to ruin this whole man's career right now.
Yeah, let's fuck some shit up right here. And actually, that actually happened to Kelly Clayton, who won her LFA debut against Kay Hansen. And shit, man. I mean, literally, we were right about to go live, and the damn dog knocks her phone like clear across. Like I go flying across the room via her phone, and it was just the most brilliant thing. I was just like, that's great. You know, and most people are like, oh, why don't your live start on time? You posted this, whatever. And I'm like, oh, dude, you don't even know what the haps are. The 10 minutes before, just amazing stuff happens.
That's amazing. Well, you're due for many more glorious moments, so I wouldn't worry about that. You have a new beautiful addition to the family, so I'm great. Well, thank you for giving us the exclusive on that. That's pretty nice. It's on our show before it's even on your show.
Yeah, before on my show, before my social media, haven't posted one picture, one iota. So I knew that I was going to be on the show. I said, here we go. Here's a worldwide exclusive for Rock because he does such awesome things. So there you go.
I'm very glad that you did that because I always, when I go on other people's show, I always think, all right, what am I going to give them? Like, I do this too much to not give them something good. Like, if somebody came on my show and they didn't give me something good, I'd definitely be like, well, okay, I'm not going to give them the goods when I go on theirs. But the fact that you've given me a dog premiere makes me think to myself, all right, when I finally do another interview with you, it's going to have to be something important. The last guy who I just did an interview with, G-Baby, who has a new podcast. He's a great kid. I love the shit out of Giancarlo. And he brought me on and I was talking to him and I said, hey man, I don't know if you know this, but I'm like doing a special series for Grappling Hour. And he's like, what's that? I go, I've been interviewing people about their training sessions, specifically like an entire mini series about how they've gotten around COVID, both physically and mentally. And I go, I haven't even told people that. I've been doing it on the sneaks. And I think I should tell you first. And he was like, oh, that's so dope. I was like, yeah, dude, you came on my show and you said you're going to premiere a new podcast. You were like, I have a big announcement. I go, cool. And I wanted to see what it was. And he goes, I'm starting a new podcast. And I was like, chill the fuck out, dude. I've got like 4 or 5 shows. You don't need to have that many. I will tell you that right now. It gets dicey because sometimes you go, which show is this again?
Yeah.
If I have a suit, that means it's the comedy one. If I'm in a regular video, I'm on this one. And if I'm on audio, it's verbal tap. Yeah, it's good enough. All right, let's keep this party going.
Yeah, you know what? You more talented than I, because I mean, I've thankfully, knock on wood, that I've only had to set up one Instagram, and it took me forever to even do like a Facebook business page, right? And stream off of there. I was just going live for my personal page and whatever. But I mean, theoretically speaking, I haven't had to do any kind of duality. But I don't know. As I'm nearing my Facebook limit in terms of friends, and everybody wants to friend me because, like you're on the podcast. So, they want to be tagged and everything like that. And like, oh, dude, after 134 podcasts the last 3 months, it filled up pretty quickly.
134? Yeah, that makes sense. I was wondering because I was like, I knew your pace was similar to mine in the sense of I would sometimes finish a show and then it would tell me, oh, he's doing one now. And I would look at you and I go, I wish I could. My brain is fried. I'll see another one. And I would literally look at you and I'd be like, well, that's pretty impressive because I know how many interviews I do. So it's of that thing where when you do them and you see somebody doing the same thing that same day, you go, yeah, he's racking them up. I have a general idea of how many shows we've done. But I think the big thing that we were kind of trying to figure out on my side here was, who do I want to talk to? Like when the first parts of the pandemic hit, I was like, I don't want to talk to people who are just going to be shitty guests who are going to complain all the time. Like I have to set a standard because I felt like for 2 weeks, everybody was like, I'm angry. And I go, sure. What are we going to do about it? Like, what solutions do you have? What positive ideas or concepts do you have? And it's all angry. And I go, I don't want to be that show. And then after I kind of figured out like where my space was, I said, all right, let's hit the ground running. And it's a lot.
No, absolutely. And I mean, most people are like, you should time your shows and like, have a set day to drop them or whatever. But there's probably in the double digits in terms of like people that they weren't sure. And they were like, oh yeah, I've got like 45 minutes right here. Can you set it up? And I'm like literally frantically posting it on social media, setting up their link, getting it to them, and then fiddling around because they've got like the worst. I mean, they probably have the net zero disk, of internet connections, So, it's all types of fun. And somebody was like, you should number them. And I'm like, I mean, some people love that I do both, and float back between MMA and pro wrestling and back to jiu-jitsu or whatever, and people don't. So I figure like the people that are going to want to tune in for that particular person, they're going to do that. And cool if you stick around and check out the other shit that I do, but I'm not counting on it.
Here's what I would say is the nice part of what you're doing, which is, part of the reason why I brand them out is because sometimes we do have very similar people who go, I only want this. And I go, okay, well, show up for the pro wrestling one. I only want you to be funny and tell me jokes. Okay, you have to be more specific, but if you're talking about like monologue jokes, I have a show for that. I don't want you to like do editorials. Cool, that's the grappling hour ones. Like there's a little bit of piece of like what I try to do for them all. The genius of what you're doing so far is you have a show that's called According to Woods. So really the show is whatever the fuck you want it to be. So I think that's the nice part. When I saw you starting to get more of the pro wrestlers on, because it's not like you were averse to it or you hadn't done it. I just know that like sometimes if I were to throw a pro wrestler on Grappling Hour, I'd sit there and watch me justify it for the first 5 minutes going like, in essence, isn't all grappling pro wrestling? Like, think about it. There's takedowns and there's some Greco in there every once in a while, and then they sometimes slam each other. Then, German suplex. You just can't do that out of nowhere. So I just like the fact that as long as it is what you want it to be, just make it what you want it to be. And who gives a shit, man?
Yeah, that's it. And that's one of the, I'm going to rename a little bit as we get into Ludovic Klein against Shane Young. And I love Ludovic's name. I just do. But in terms of, there's a video floating around on YouTube of me when I first started one of my YouTube channels. And it's essentially me going like, hey, let's just fucking talk about it. And I'm fucking stuttering and stammering and all that shit and whatever. But I mean, that's what I wanted it to be. It's just like, whatever the fuck, and I've, just because of, the combat sports community, like I've had, Chris Bruno, who's an actor. And I mean, technically the oldest debuting professional fighter in California history, and he was talking about like, him doing a movie with Ben Affleck and, like cutting a promo with Gilby Clarke from Guns N' Roses and shit like that. And I'm like, I like all of that shit. Hopefully you guys are into that too. And I'll bring some of that shit. And there's going to be shit that you don't like. And with that, it is what it is.
I mean, listen, dude. I also am very much of the mindset of with Grappling Hour. I said, "Oh, I guess that means I should just only interview grapplers." And then it was just kind of one of those things where when I would get some of the UFC guys, and I would be like, "Are they really? Oh, yeah, they have to be. So fuck it. Yeah, if you have to be expected to know it, then you might as well be in on this." So this match right over here. Let me tell you just a few thoughts as to why this is interesting to me. Of course, you have Shane Young in the black trunks coming in, a very nice aggressive nature. You wouldn't get that if you had just looked at the weigh-in yesterday and saw him do a haka in front of one Dana White and slap his hand. And there was a very visibly confused Dana White, like, fucking this guy, you fucking believe him, in his face that all of us know. But yet his opponent, Klein, over here as well in the white or silverish trunks. Now, did you see that clip? And if so, did you have the same reaction that I did, which was, what the fuck is he doing?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I'm half Fijian, so I'm familiar with all things Pacific Islander, kind of war, right?
Whoa, man. Okay. Well, I have some very bad news for our friends who basically were voting because they liked the way that I said, who you got in this one? Do you have Klein or this fucking guy? And this fucking guy got 73% on the vote. And unfortunately, 27% of you were able to see through the hilariousness of, yeah, that was a great viral video. But holy shit, let's talk about Klein. Walk me through this playback that you are seeing right now, sir.
So on my end, I actually see him holding up his... Okay, here we go. So what I'm seeing is Boost Mobile product placement. Oh my gosh, what is he? Like back fisting, head kick. Oh, 1-2 punch. Holy shit. He gets him in the ground. The Silver Fox referee has all of his salt and pepper glory, essentially. Damn, it was Klein. Holy hell. Oh my God. And here's the funny thing. The other guy, right? This fucking guy, he gets up like he's gonna like resurrect like the Undertaker, and it doesn't happen. And he gets like literally as he's rising up, Klein's fist on the come down, almost a la Dan Henderson, like hits him and he bounces off the mat, and Silver Fox ref kind of calls it off. I think that's one of the most fantastic fucking finishes that I've seen. And I mean, Klein full on like constipation victory mode pose. That's awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
So
here's what impressed me about that. Not only is there a great kick, a great spitting kind of like, not even a spitting, just kind of like a back fist motion, but the fact that he got floored by a hook and like an uppercut that just kind of looked like it wobbled him, and to the point where it shut him off, he goes down. Of course, you see Klein come in with some follow-ups, and then at the very end of it, Shane Young looks around and is kind of like, why would you stop that? It's like, well, the fight ended, so I'm not sure that you ended along with it, but it definitely went somewhere else without your knowledge. So that is definitely going to be an opportunity to cheers. I will need to get a new beer. So I'm going to give you the floor just for a second, if you don't mind covering and telling us just, I guess, this post-fight interview, if you hear anything of note. But feel free to plug your shit, man. I'll be right back.
yeah, absolutely. So if you guys don't already know, I am According to Woods, and you can find me on social media under this very moniker. Essentially, my show is on YouTube and Facebook. I have a business page as well as the YouTube where I go live from, and I interview various luminaries from all facets of combat sports. And yes, you might hate me, but I feel like professional wrestling is the combat sport, especially when you get into the Judo Gene LaBelle, Kazushi Sakuraba, Josh Barnett kind of neighborhood, and all of them fancy themselves as professional wrestlers first. So you can't deny that pro wrestling is one sort of combat sport or the other. And what you guys now know as EBI and no-gi grappling and all of that jazz, that was called pro wrestling literally at the turn of the century. So it all relates. And yes, you might not like the pizzazz factor of the WWE and all that and whatever, but I mean, I dig it all. I just watch it all. Anything, the ring, cage, or mats, I'm into. So I encourage you to follow me on this ride and journey. And if you haven't already done so, check out the Grappling Hour with the incomparable Rafa Sparta.
Don't plug me. We're fine. people are just watching me now, and they haven't seen a show. I'm like, what the fuck did make you watch this? When you have other options, you don't have to watch these fight companions. So if you're here, you're probably either very confused, drunk, and at which point, thank you very much. First of all, I don't know if you heard any part of his post-fight, but this dude endeared himself to me and being like, this is my favorite thing ever. I'm so happy. And I go, yeah, I don't know if anybody could have possibly ever rooted against you, bud.
No. Apparently, yeah, everybody else that voted for that fucking guy. And I want to call into question because we were talking about the haka before, right?
Yes.
And this went the exact way that I felt it was going to go. Now, this might be a complete dichotomy of my culture, or half of it at least. But
sure.
You remember there was a viral video of this guy tattooed all on the face, getting in the face of his opponent, wearing a really shit replica of the UFC title, the old UFC title, not the current one that looks like a golden paper plate. Anywho, and he gets knocked 9 ways to Sunday. And when I saw, man, I get it. Shane Young, right? Not Sean Young from See No Evil, Hear No Evil, or what have you, right? But when I saw Sean Young do it, and I was like, wouldn't it be the fucking thing that, wouldn't you know who won the fucking pony? If he does the haka and gets his ass knocked out, and that's exactly what fucking happened. So, I have another show that I do with former MMA champion Pius Inilalobo, better known as Voodoo Maximus, and we do Voodoo in the Woods because he's Voodoo, I'm Woods, right? And I said exactly that last night, in fact. And this one, I'm resting on my laurels. That one's awesome.
I'm glad you were able to get that one accurate, Lee, because there does feel a little bit of a nice moment when you kind of see things play out the way that you thought they might go. I just know for sure on that particular fight that I was like, well, he did a good job of getting us interested in who the fuck he is, but yeah, I still listen, dude, I give Dana White shit because I'm not employed by him. Giving him shit when you work for him is yikes 3000. I got a note here from Joffrey Wakeling who says, I like Jake Matthews in the next fight. So I guess that begs the natural question to you, Adam, which is, well, who do you have? Do you have Diego or do you have Jake Matthews?
I want Jake Matthews by, literally blistering knockout. And here's why. And all the respect to Diego Sanchez. Love the guy. This is a guy who's a pioneer, a first ballot Hall of Famer when he decides to hang up his gloves or go the route of Clay Guida and be inducted into the Hall of Fame and continue to fight. But here's the thing. He's showing signs of, I don't know if it's, CTE or what have you, or just a weird mindset. And after watching Dana White's looking for a fight, the Abu Dhabi edition or Fight Island edition, and his coach Josh Fabia getting into it with Matt Serra just all randomly. There's a mental something or other that I just cannot stand. And I don't I want Jake Matthews to finish almost a mercy kill to one Diego Sanchez, the Nightmare, or whatever he's calling himself today, because it would have no shadow of a doubt that Diego Sanchez gets his walking papers from the UFC. His last win was on a technicality because his opponent, who was whooping the ever-living crap out of him, literally hit him with an illegal knee, and that's how he got his win. So I just want a mercy kill. I want Jake Matthews to finish this fight. It's a good win because Jake Matthews is actually coming off of a couple losses. And this is a big name for Jake Matthews. So I'm picking, just like Jeffrey, I'm picking Jake Matthews for the win as well.
Okay. Earlier tonight, we did speak with Dan Hubler, our resident betting man of the show, and he and I both agreed, don't touch the action on this one. Don't. This is not cool. If you strongly believe in Diego Sanchez, who is apparently a plus 800 on this, go do you, but don't come to us as if that is the advice that we are giving you. And I tried to put that on Dan, and he was like, under no circumstances get that anywhere close to me. They are now famously showing the Paulo Costa and Israel Adesanya white belt exchange, which is, I guess, both expected and just ridiculously absurd. What were your thoughts when you saw that happen?
So obviously Israel, and I'm not the biggest Israel Adesanya fan. I'm actually not a fan at all. He just rubs me the wrong way. But Paulo Costa was essentially trying to get into Israel's head after Israel basically lambasted him at the press conference. I mean, literally made a fool out of Paulo Costa. And, obviously there's a language barrier there, Portuguese being Costa's first language and what have you. And Israel exploited that to the umpteenth degree. So that was Costa's way of kind of getting back at Izzy. So that I didn't think too much of it. I mean, but I've been to Combate Americas weigh-ins, and I can't remember who, but somebody fought Ghost Pepper, right? Eric Ghost Pepper Gonzalez, and threw a bag of hot Cheetos at him. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. So I've seen weirder stuff at weigh-ins. Yeah, so
fair enough. Listen, dude, I've trained a little bit with Eric, and I'm not throwing anything at him. Technically, if you're looking at the belt rankings, he is a blue belt to my purple belt. And, rolling with him, you also, I don't know, how do I put this? He went to go fist bump me just to greet me. And I was like, ow, fuck. His hands were very hard. That's why I would never want to fight him. Just even that little fist bump, it just felt like, no, I'm so glad I don't fight because I don't have those Wolverine adamantium fucking hands. I don't even need to compliment him. It's just how he acts and his personality. So he's just kind of like, hey, what's up, man? And he couldn't be nicer. And I just go, what the fuck's wrong with you? Get away from me, Eric. I don't want to fucking train with you anymore, though.
Yeah, but I mean that's a loaded thing. What the fuck is wrong with you? Because I mean, I think this is an apropos kind of topic to go into this next fight because I mean whether it be Diego Sanchez or Josh Fabia, that's what I've got. And I mean I would even talking about Costa, right? I mean we've got Henry Cejudo, right? Henry Cejudo's coach. Eric, and I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'm not even going to try. Al Serban or what have you. That dude is super creepy. He's just weird. I don't know. A head case to an umpteenth degree, right? So it's kind of weird, right? Because we're going to see, a level of what the fuck were you thinking in both the Diego Sanchez and possibly Al Serban's coaching of Costa. Even though Costa's my pick to win it, we're going to be going what the fuck were we thinking? That's kind of my tangent there. I don't know.
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. It's somebody who was trying to talk me into in our DM. Somebody slid in and they're just like, I can't believe Connor is going to go do Manny Pacquiao fight. And I go, yeah, I don't hit it as much as I did Mayweather, so I'm okay. And they go, it's not even a sport. And I go, I think Connor's in a weird place. You can only do so much with him that hurts him because the top of that division will fuck him up right now. And you still want to keep him as a draw. So if he loses boxing, nobody really cares. But people are still kind of engaged, and he makes a lot more money. So I don't know. And plus, he's not as active as he used to be. The Conor that we all grew to love before Bus and all of that crazy was somebody who was consistently active and didn't seem to have other enhancers that could maybe play a role in things outside of the cage. However, having said that, they go, I don't know, man, I'd much rather see him retire Diego Sanchez. And I go, that's the weird part that he's in. He's in this weird middle ground of better than a lot of the class that he's around, but not good enough to beat some of the top echelon. So you do have to ask yourself, do I really want to see him retire Diego Sanchez? Because, yeah, Diego, he's crazy enough. Just like this fight, he's always got a puncher's chance to make his way through. But if Conor finishes him real quick, or, some part of his scar tissue just starts bleeding out of his brain very quickly, why are we doing this? You don't want to waste that with Conor. It's a pipe dream, but it's one that I'm glad that we found out was actually true. So that is something that I had somebody in the thing just telling me, and I go, why do you care? Like, it's just going to happen, and hopefully we just going to see something fun out of this all.
No, 100%. And it's funny that we're talking about the Conor Pacquiao fight, but I mean, you have to go back into Conor and Mayweather, right? And yes, that was a freak show fight and what have you, and it went the way that most purists thought it was going to be, right? But the similarity of that card to this is, I mean, can't be denied, because I mean, Izzy's on top, right? Most of the guys at his gym, if you're got a decent record, right, you're either debuting or you're fighting on this card. This is your shot. And I don't know if Izzy worked that into his kind of his rider, so to speak. But my goodness, I mean, I've never seen so many, whether it be New Zealand or Australian fighters on a UFC card that isn't in New Zealand or Australia.
Yeah, I think that's, again, one of the weirdest places of where we are currently, because with COVID, we're just kind of you listen, dude, get them on some cards. Fight Island makes sense, but a whole bunch of these American fighters were going to get first call, as we saw in the past 6 months. They're the first in line. So, it's just regionally. It's just what we're having to deal with. I will remind you guys, if you give us a like and a share, we will give you a toast on air. And I do need to go ahead and take care of a couple in a minute. Especially in the fact that, holy shit, just taking care of the last fight that we saw, that deserves a series of cheers on an epic scale. But I would say this is your first time doing this. I will actually hand over the honors to you, sir. The gentleman who just recently got a savage knockout, who couldn't have been happier, Senor LaDavid Klein, deserves a cheers. Would you mind going ahead and taking that for us, sir?
This goes out to Mr. Klein with a fabulous knockout. Now, I mean, the series in which you finish your opponent, that many of the dais in the esteemed Grappling Hour chat picked to win. I mean, you literally did a video game move. Your shit was like Blanca from Street Fighter. You fucking did this. You were almost like Dalzine, and you managed to land all of those shots, and then a wicked set of events that, I mean, everything that you like about striking in MMA. The kicks, there was one in there. The awesome combos and what have you. There was some in there too. I mean, just some fabulous striking for Mr. Klein. And I mean, hopefully, this whole kind of UFC Reebok Venom thing shakes out, so you can get a deal with Calvin Klein, because I think after that knockout, you are the poster boy for all things Klein. So, salute to you. Cheers.
Okay. A few things to go over. Number one, looking at what's happening right now, I think it's an apt time to bring up the poll result that we had on Grappling Hour. I'm sorry, this one was on Verbal Tap for the numbers because they proved to be right in the last one. We'll see where you guys come through. But this is the poll result number that we had for Sanchez and for Matthews. 68% of people believe that Matthews will win, which begs the question, why would we be throwing Diego to Connor if people are expressing that sort of epic? I don't think he's going to get through this number.
Yeah, what is it, like a 5-fight deal that Diego has after this? It's weird. I just, in good conscience, seeing what we saw, I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but what we saw in recent years with BJ Penn, most recently with Mayhem Miller, like, this needs to stop. This needs to stop. So for me, again, I want this mercy kill. I love the heart of the 32% of the dais, the esteemed dais of Grappling Hour.
Yeah, please put it on please put it on every single person that voted on our thing to be like, how dare you guys keep him fighting? The 32% of you that voted are just encouraging it, and that seems wrong. I just know that when I saw those numbers come in, I go, okay, there's sometimes the people who just vote. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I can't finish my thought because Diego's walking out and it's just, it's never not funny.
The funny thing about it is, he's like, oh my gosh, like walking like the Second City Saint with no arena. Like this is some crazy stuff. I have expected him to pull out the cross, that he's infamous for in a, Arab country, because I mean, again, the mental capacity of one Diego Sanchez in 2020 leads me to believe he would make such decisions.
Okay, is this wacky coach there because I don't see him yet?
Yeah.
Is that him right there?
What are we doing? Are they going to haka? Because that's the precursor to the haka in rugby.
What concerns me about this is I definitely spent time listening to his coach on Luke Thomas to give him the benefit of the doubt. And hearing, I think they yelled out shadow as if that was a thing. And I was like, what the fuck does shadow mean? Yeah. Who the fuck's yelling out this sort of shit to him? Anyway, I'm hoping that maybe we have somebody now on the show who might be able to tell us their thoughts on this upcoming matchup between Diego Sanchez and Jake Matthews. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast, please welcome to the show, one, Kevin Bradley. Kevin, how are you doing, sir?
I'm better now, man. How you doing, Raph?
It's fine. I do enjoy when you bring somebody out for the very first moment, which is the nicest way of saying, are you okay? And you go, not doing well, but I am now.
Well, I use that as a way to imply that your presence enriches my life. Raph.
I would like to think so too, but I also have to check on the mental health of literally every guest that we've had on. So it is a little bit of a wash. Here's what I'm going to ask you. Do you have Jake Matthews or do you have Diego Sanchez? Now, mind you, you are now on film, so people can hear you in the future.
And this is what a forum to voice my opinions on, but I come into this fight not really sure, but I'm more interested in Diego specifically because of comments he made before this fight about how he no longer views being a UFC champion as something he needs to do. And I thought that was really interesting, especially given the guy is really spiritual and cerebral. I don't know what kind of a mental shift he's made, but I want to see how it translates to this first match post those comments. So
I gotta tell you, man, it is nice to know he has finally met up with basically everybody else who goes, yeah, true. I will not see you as a champion either. But hey, man, you arrived here a few years too late, but maybe we can have some fun while you're still here. So I will just remind you and Adam get to know each other. We're going to be here for a little bit. But yes, on the poll, it is 32% to 68%. And Matthews wants to waste 0 time thus far in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy that Diego Sanchez is getting more spiritual, because I predict that we will see one Diego Sanchez's spirit leave his body, and get a little bit closer to the maker. So there's that. And he's doing the weird hands thing again. Like, what is this? Kind of stance. And, he's coming in, as a portly gentleman myself, he's coming in a little bit more doughier than what we've seen in his past kind of iterations of the octagon. So,
first of all, how dare you? He is carrying what we like to call Corona weight. And hold for plug.
Oh no, Adam, what have you done?
Yeah. So
I'll tell you this much, kids. It's a perfect opportunity. I wish this was closer to me. Actually, I had to go reach over and get it. But yes, it's a perfect opportunity to brand out. Look at this from our sponsor.
Oh man.
Hashtag Corona weight.
Hashtag Corona weight. But then, you can get that one, or you can actually get the one that just lets people know exactly who the fuck they're dealing with, because there are levels to this shit here, people. So you can get that one, or you get a hashtag Corona weight champ. That's over at NogiBJJgear.com. Did they come up with it based on a few jokes I made? Maybe. But, wouldn't be the first or the last time somebody made merch off of some shit I've said. Oof. Anyway.
Now that
15 for 50% off. Anyway, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, I'm sorry. I understand the importance of a good plug, and I hate to interrupt. But now that I am noticing it more, and I really can't fault him, just because me specifically, I did a tournament right before quarantine started, and I cut a bunch of weight. I was feeling good, and then I had vodka and cheesecake every day for about a week, and that was basically all I ate, and I ballooned up 15 pounds, assuming I was going to be able to work the weight off. And this is kind of a weird thing, but what kind of hairdo is he working with too? Like, I'm noticing his hair is a little bad.
Dude, let's not judge people on hair choices. It is a rough time. I look like a normal person again after what I think made me look like a saloon patron in the late 1800s for about a good 2 months. I had 2 competing haircuts on my head. It was not a pretty sight. And yet some days I'd wake up and go, am I cutting it or am I letting it just keep going? And I hated every moment of it. So when I finally got it cut, and I thought the haircut was okay, I get home, my wife sees me and she goes, "You're back." And then the next thing she said was, "It's still not your best haircut." And I go, "I know. And yet, isn't it better?" And she's like, "Yeah, instantly better." So
how disrespectful is it that during this man's fight, he's had a long storied career in the UFC. All we've talked about is how he gained weight and has a bad haircut.
You brought up half of that. In fact,
I expounded on points that were being brought. He's got a front mullet. That's what it is. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Listen, dude, sometimes you can only grow a party in the front that you just have to give up on the party in the back. I will tell you this. Matthews was very, very, very efficient at the very beginning of the round, but now you give Diego Sanchez a few punches. Sometimes he wakes up. So the real question is he going to connect here? So is there anything that is keeping you within the realm of being satisfied with the pick that you made here a little bit earlier, Adam?
No, not really. Because again, what can we say about Jake Matthews' tenure in the UFC if he doesn't beat Diego Sanchez? Right, that's what I want to know. Right, does he stay around for another fight? It's if you're having a hard time putting away an aging, battle tested Diego Sanchez in I don't think he's 40 yet, but he's still up there. This is the guy that was on the Ultimate Fighter season 1, right? And if you're having a hard time, literally being almost a decade and a half, if not more so, younger than him, there is no place for you in the top echelon of combat sports. Good job, kid. Let's play again later. So there's that.
I'm gonna ask this. Oh man,
I'm sorry, I really can't. I'm at a friend's house right now. That is Calamity the cat, and I do not control what Calamity does.
So, okay, Kevin, I appreciate the follow through and the commitment to our show here. You're at a friend's house doing this show?
Listen, when Rap Esparza calls, you got to pick up the phone.
No, I feel terrible now. This is the worst guest that you could possibly have. Like, why would people be your friend if you
Full disclosure, my buddy, my good friend Jeff, who is an incredible stud purple belt, by the way, is currently watching Turkish Star Wars. So do you want to confine me to that? Do you want to have me go watch Turkish Star Wars?
I am pleased you were here, and I was making my way to making fun of your Super Barbara Walters gauze version of a camera here, because look at this. This is a true podcast sort of collab that we have here. All three of us have shows. Adam is showing up with quality camera that rivals my own, if not better than my own. You basically look like you are being communicated in an AOL chat room from 2000. So look, I'm just saying, I want to
listen, Raph,
be happy you're here.
Raph, I need you to know my kidnappers have been very generous. They've given me 5 minutes of computer time to be here with you, and I feel like getting roasted for the limited optics I'm working with is unprofessional on your part, sir.
Yeah, I'm really glad that it's the captors that have you. So yeah, you in the Osama bin Laden cave, just wandering out and being like, "Do you guys get Wi-Fi here? What's the password?"
I am coming to you on the first iPhone. I'm streaming to you on from the iPhone 1. It's taped to the wall, and my headphones are plugged into the earphone jack, and yet I persevere.
Well, okay, so now that I've given you shit, I will do the compliment, which is, I have to say, I'm pretty impressed that you're able to have a setup where you go. Now, granted, would I have a better setup? Obviously, because I'm a professional, but I still feel like, all things considered, oh my God, Matthews with a backing up uppercut there, connected in a way that made me a little concerned about Diego just eating it. And can we just say this? A lot of us, I think, express concern for Diego Sanchez from a place of true appreciation for the role he has played in helping the sport become what it is. That is why I think so many of us go, we're good.
No, 1,000%. And it's one of those where, again, what more does he have to prove? Is he going to contend for a title anytime soon or not? Is he going to crack the top 15? Absolutely not. But that's kind of the cool thing about doing podcasts with different people and whatever, is finding out their why. Because I really want to know what Diego Sanchez's why is. Is it money problems? Obviously, we saw Bobby Green come back from retirement to pay off his house, and he's done that and still fighting. So, I mean, what is Diego Sanchez's why? And I almost want to get him alone. Well, this is not going to sound right, but I mean, alone in the room without Fabia, and they're like, yo, dude, like, why? But I think it's too far gone. I think the aliens have already kind of circumvented the cerebral cortex of one Diego Sanchez.
Real quick, do you think if you had an hour alone with him in a room, you could undo the brainwashing that may or may not be there from his coach? Do you think he can enter the room as Diego Sanchez and leave a normal guy, or is that not enough time for you? Like 1 hour?
No, 100%. I mean, I don't think I could last. My sanity would just be, I don't know. Like, I would develop like a OCD tendency. It wouldn't be good. But I mean, theoretically speaking, I mean, Raf and I, we kind of had this experience actually at CXF 8 Fall Brawl with one of the greatest fights that I've ever seen live, and probably on my top 5 of all-time greatest fights, in Richard Leroy versus Jalen Turner. And Richard Leroy won that fight. Spoiler alert, and you can check it out on FITE TV app. But I mean, he took some damage. I mean, he got rocked the first 30 seconds of the fight, and Jalen Turner obviously is in the UFC. But there is a moment where Raf and I, we were looked at each other at the Burbank Marriott Convention Center, and we were going like, we're probably not going to interview Richard Leroy. He was pretty busted up. And I mean, yeah, so that is pretty much encompasses my entire view of Diego Sanchez's latter part of his career. I'm asking Rob, hey Rob, this is probably not going to be a good interview, dude.
I will 1,000,000% not only agree with you, but so a few things to know. One, I will affirm that is the greatest fight I have ever seen live. It is regional out here in California. I had so much respect for both participants. I'm not surprised that Jalen ended up in the UFC, but I went up to Rich and I said, hey man, I'd love to interview you. And he's kind of like, cool, man. Yeah, whatever. And I go, not tonight. I don't know if CTE scans have been done, but you took some damage and I'd like to talk to you when you're a person. And Rich and I, we agreed to, kind of not do the interview that day. And he later ended up coming over to my place, a little central over here for Grappling Hour Central. And we did a live interview. And after the interview was done, and I think you guys both know this, there is a fallacy of thinking you are friends with the fighters. So you really have to be very mindful of it. It doesn't mean you won't make friends with the fighters or you won't be casual friends with them, but like you don't assume you're going to be friends with them. Rich and I finished the interview. We get off air. We both look at each other and we go, you're all right. He's like, yeah, you're all right. And I'm like, okay. And from there, we legitimately became friends to the point where I train striking with Rich now. And Rich will start off sometimes by being like, hey, man, when you're in a fight and you get here and you do this, and I go, let's be very clear. I will never be in a fight. So I understand you're telling me how to win a fight in the UFC or in a mixed martial arts cage. That's not on my agenda. So no, thank you. But I do love that every once in a while he forgets and he goes, oh, right. Yeah. And I go, bro, I didn't call you because I want to get better in 6 weeks because I got to fucking fight a heater going on at one of these fucking underground fight cage things. No, dude, I'm calling you because I just think it helps me both stay fit and learn a skill that's really cool. And honestly, man, a lot of the stuff that I found in training, I think, in my opinion, has made me a better commentator, much like being a grappler has lent me certain things that I see when I'm watching these things live that I go, oh, I probably wouldn't have seen that if I didn't do that training.
No, I 100% agree. And I went the route in my career a la Joe Rogan. And not to say that I don't like, grappling, and I'm not even a tenth of the mixed martial artist that Joe Rogan is, right? But I figured, hey, if I'm not going to go to college and do this, right, I might as well learn, right, and figure out a way to convey it to the general populace of mass. So that's what I did, and I mean, the first time, so I had trained, oh my gosh, and this is exactly the way that I thought it was going to go. Diego Sanchez busted up. I mean, Jake Matthews all over him.
Adam, I'm gonna put a quick bookmark here. We're gonna return to your origin story stuff real quick. Kevin, you seem to be signaling some concern. What is the concern you're having right now?
With Diego, it's just...
No, about life. What the fuck do you mean? Yeah, of course, Diego. You're like, what's going wrong with the environment right now? No, he's bleeding. A man is essentially...
Look, hey, I'm thinking about the next pick for the Supreme Court. I'm thinking about California. A life goes on outside of the cage, Raph. But yes, in this instance, I am worried about Diego, and it looks like he's working. I don't know if I'm delayed, but it looks like he's trying to maintain, or maybe working a guillotine from closed guard. Do you think the concern that you two were speaking about Diego with earlier, is it greater or less than the concern that people have expressed for fighters like Aldo? Or is it about the same? Just because I think a lot of guys like Diego often go unthought of in that regard. They're just sort of there. And it's like, oh, good for you for sticking around. But with guys like Aldo, it's like, you've done enough. Stop. Do you think? Yeah.
I'll put it to you this way. Aldo doesn't say as much shit that we ever hear. Could be a language barrier, but Diego says stuff that all of us go, okay, that doesn't sound great. And now I wasn't concerned about you, but guess who just became concerned and has two thumbs? So there is a little bit of that. I would say for Diego, though, there's a little bit of difference. Obviously, Aldo became a champion and a very recognizable one who had a big fall off just because of things. I would say, though, for Diego, it has been an inconsistent up and down. And we have a policy on the show where sometimes we like to tell someone mercifully, we'd like you to go and hang it up. However, Diego's put in a couple performances that make us go, yeah, that's not bad. So we've subscribed to what we like to refer to as the buy 10 sandwiches, get one free card, so that every time they have a good fight, no, don't awe this. I'm not asking. This isn't fucking a kid's show. You punch one of those and you get a good fight. And then at the very end, we build in some good faith for you. Because look at this. He's trying for an armbar here that, you know what? Crazy enough, could work in a crazier world. However, Josh Matthews, if he's smart, postures, doesn't go through this too crazy. No, he's starting to get part of his arm. You pull the arm back in, dude. No, don't punch him. Get the elbow out of the crook. Anyway, what I am saying to you is this. Diego is, for better or worse, somebody who has endeared us with his personality at times where we laughed, and now it has become a time when we are concerned. And I think that has been the drastic shift in all of us looking at the career of Diego Sanchez, a non-champion who still has a historic place in the UFC.
1000%. It's not just blood. I'm like, is there brain matter that is seeping out from his ears, coming from the bridge of his nose? Is it just kind of like they're all fluid, And again, he wins his fight, and the question of him retiring gets put back. But what will be his quality of life after it? He's already showing signs of, not the best mental capacity, right? And we've got to question it, in various aspects of his career. We're what, 10 years removed from him carrying the cross, to the cage and what have you. That was 10 years ago, and I was concerned then. Now we're 10 years removed. All those fights, all the wars that you've put in, and again, look, Matthews. They go to the distance. What does it say about Matthews? And yes, Diego Sanchez has a skill set to make it interesting and what have you. But if you're Dana White, right, and you've got a bloated roster, you're making the cut, especially after you fit the bill for Jake Matthews to fly in on Etihad Airlines and put him up in the hotel in Abu Dhabi. Like, I'm making the cut. This is 3 losses in a row. You came into the UFC on a 2-fight losing streak, and you lost to Diego Sanchez. But I think it's a loss. I don't know.
Can I make a quick pitch here? I think you've just tuned into the latest installment of Accounting to Woods, because this man literally just made the go ahead to Dana to be like, let's go call it a wrap on his. We gotta move along. How many fighters are on this roster? We need to get in and get out. Here's some good news. Diego did make it to the end of the fight, and I think some people might have seen that as a possibility. However, what really got marked up here is scar tissue. So let's just say it could have been from the original time. And Diego, hey, bud, I don't know who needs to make this sort of decision with you, but if somebody needs to sit you down and tell you, don't do it, God bless them. Let them take that front brunt.
Yeah, so, and I think this kind of skirts the question of, Diego Sanchez retirement because he didn't look bad against somebody that's literally okay. Yes, Jake Matthews wins, but again, you went the distance with Diego Sanchez. What does that say about your fight acumen? And again, that leaves an error by Matthews not finishing him. It's like, oh well, I guess there's a chance to Diego Sanchez, right? Like, oh, I guess there's a chance. And with that, DQ finish that he had in his last fight, I'm talking about Diego Sanchez because pronouns, pal. But with that all being said, I'm just like, he probably doesn't think there's anything wrong. Neither does Fabian, So I don't know. This is disheartening.
All right, Kevin, I'm going to put this on you. Right now, look at me like I'm Diego Sanchez, okay? And it is your job to convince me to retire. Go.
There's two routes I could go, which is I try to reach him on whatever quasi-spiritual, metaphysical realm he is able to be convinced of things at. Like I could tell him that the sunbird yearns for you to lay down your sword or some other parable. Or I could just say, Mr. Sanchez, you are a legendary figure in this sport. You've done a massive amount to drive interest and get people watching, and we've been amazed at the things you've done. You've shown us an incredible range that deserves to be rewatched and analyzed forever. But everyone's got a day they just got to put it down, and I think that's, for your sake and your loved ones, I would hope that day is soon. If not today, then maybe after one more. But I do wish him the best.
I will not retire until the eagle returns with the talon that tells me I am ready to go ahead and call it a day.
I think I would have to just give him I would have to silently walk up to him with a red feather and put it in his hand and then light the feather on fire, and he just goes, "I understand." And then he goes off and he retires.
Some feedback. Step number one, you lost me at when you didn't say maybe give him some ayahuasca first, because I feel like if that's not part of step one, this could be a very dangerous plan for your safety.
Is he not already kind of there though?
You know what, dude? I honestly don't know. And I know that we mentioned a little bit earlier on Adam, you were talking about the idea of getting to know his why. I will 100% be honest with both of you as fellow interviewers. There are some people that I sometimes look at. I will never really turn down an interview, but there are certainly some interviews I won't chase because I figure your insanity and my brand may not mesh well together. And there have been a number of interviews where I've done it, even against my better judgment of going, I don't say no, so let's just do it. And sometimes they've been pleasant, and other times I go, let's never speak of this interview again. I will post it, but I will not talk bad about somebody. It's just they're going to see what they see. And it is truly the mark of our hardcore fans when they go, "You didn't like that guy, did you?" And I go, "I'll never say." But they might be 100% correct. So I think that Diego Sanchez is a guy who I go, what would I do? I think in the moment they'd be like, "Diego, would you do it?" And I would say, "I guess I have to, man." Now, Kevin, you sent me something. Oh no, I can probably pull this on. I just need a second to go ahead and do it. But let me go ahead and call up the photo so that I can bring it on the telecast. And then you can tell me exactly what this is supposed to mean. Because again, don't want to. Oh, it is. But I just want to make sure we're going to be honest to your interpretation or your vision. So what the fuck is happening in this photo, sir?
I was just looking at the configuration that StreamYard has for cameras, and because I am always the first to laugh at myself, I mistakenly did not think I would need my high-def camera today. and I am looking a little subpar next to you gentlemen, and I thought you would appreciate the laugh. Oh man!
I don't mind you making fun of yourself because it makes less work for me to do, but I'm still going to do it anyway. I just love the fact that I look down, I see that come across my page, and I go, I think I know what it means, but we're still on a Diego run here, and I don't know what he's got. Is he trying
to man?
Is he saying that one is Coach Crazy Pants over there and the other one is Diego? And honestly, hard time picking who's who on that one.
I do not have it in me to go that far. That would be so messed up. And I could whip up that meme really quick too. My 0 to 60 for meme making is very impressive, if I do say so myself. But I would not go that far. I just told him I'd have to speak to him in limericks in order to get him to quit. I'm not going to push it further than that.
So let's do this. I have talked to Adam about his show. I want to ask what has been happening lately over on the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I did see that you recently had on Mason Fowler, of course, just a few weeks after I did, but it's not important. We're not really doing that kind of bragging here on this show. What did you talk with Mason about?
It's funny just because I wanted to talk more about his transition to Kaio's gym. That was a big thing that he wanted to talk about going in. And also just the mentality of a rugby player, just from my own experience rolling with some guys that transitioned away from rugby into jiu-jitsu. I feel like that type of athlete needs to get mentioned in the same echelons as like the wrestlers that start doing jiu-jitsu, just because there's a supernatural toughness there that I don't think gets talked about a lot. But we talked about him and Vinny too. That was another one that he loves the matchup. He's really excited going into it. He has a lot of opinions about the way Submission Underground runs their show, how it's good for the sport, injecting some of the more mainstream MMA figures into it. And I think my favorite part was when he talked about the first time facing Craig versus the second time, which I think he talked about on your show a little bit, which was going in the first one, I was just a guy with nothing to lose, but it was even easier going into the second fight because it's fun being a guy with nothing to lose, but it's even better being a guy with money. Like that, I had that money confidence, and I'm like, man, I would kill for some money confidence right now.
I did tell him famously, I just said like, hey bro, happy for you, but you do that move you did to Craig with that back take to me, our friendship is over.
Well, you know what you just said about not assuming you're friends with the fighters and all that.
Well, here's what I like to sort of build in. It's part of the reason why I'm so nice to half of these guys is I don't mind if they take it easy on me when we roll. So I'm not under any delusion we're going to go out and get beers all the time. Though, I mean, I've kind of built that in pretty nicely. But do I expect them to not go murderous rage on me when we're having a friendly roll? Yeah, that'd be nice.
It's funny you say that because we actually just wrapped up an interview with Mo Jassim, and he was really odd because he wasn't odd. It was funny because he's like, a lot of the guys, if they do well in practice, it's like, what happens in practice, stay in practice. If I pull off a sick move on like an ADCC champion, I stop the round and I go to Twitter to talk about it. And I'm just going to talk to people about it.
I mean,
like, damn.
Mo's in a place where he's just kind of like, I have friends who are famous and I'm good. And I'm sure they're teaching them really good stuff. So yeah, dude, do what you need to do. Everybody's got their Instagram glory and fame. I just really want to be good at jiu-jitsu in the quietest way possible. But like, I'm not actually good. I just like when people discover I'm not as garbage as I think I am. So that's more of a value to me because this, when you do this sort of a thing, people just think they can push you around. And I'm like, well, sure, I'm going to make fun of you first, but my heel hook's not bad if I get the right setup. So who's to say? Anyway, let's return back to this. I'm going to go over, ask our good friend Adam. Adam, who do you have in this fight?
I've got the not Brad Riddell. It's weird because I'm looking off camera. I just think it's super skewed. That I mean, literally all of Izzy's teammates and countrymen, or it's weird. It's two different countries, Australia and New Zealand, but I kind of lump them all together. So I'm going for not Jake Riddell, just because.
All right, hold on real quick. Let me go and put us all back here. Kevin, who do you have on this one?
This was one of the prelim fights that I actually didn't look super closely into, so I'm completely in the air as to who's going to take what. But I am interested to hear your opinions, Mr. Esparza.
I'll get them back to you. I just want to do a very quick little note here on our poll. We had 33% of responders say that they thought Riddell was going to win it, and I realized this when I put like our giveaway that we were doing. I wrote it Day, not Da Silva. And I looked and I go, that's not right? Did I fuck it up or did they fuck it up? It's probably I fucked it up. So Da Silva, which I always think gets lost in translation. Here's what I would tell you. I feel in this one, especially right now, I have the benefit of looking at the match as currently taking place. I like that Da Silva's putting the pressure on, but one thing that's really nice that I have to acknowledge is Riddell's control of the arms. He's not taking any sort of damage right now, which I think is really critical when you have somebody who can sort of pass your guard. So I think that's a really demeaning thing if you were underneath and you can really like absorb and not only defend, but deflect a number of the installments. So it makes me think if he does get over on the back of that cage, maybe he might get up a little bit easier than most people might assume. So thus far in, it just depends on what Da Silva, if that's his real name, is able to go ahead and put on pressure, man. But it was a very good effort to get him down thus far in.
No, 1,000%. And I don't know. Like I said, I've got everybody that isn't Izzy's teammate from the rest of the card on up. I just think that Izzy annoys me. There's something about him that just annoys me. And then Volkanovski, he's just, I mean, like watching paint dry. That dude is just, I mean, I've never been more disinterested in a Joe Rogan podcast than when Volkanovski was on. He's like a dumb Australian rugby guy, and it's like, and it was just like, so it's that, and it's the fact that, and I love the coach at City Kickboxing and MMA. I think he's great, but it's just his pupils. They're either cocky or they're like dry, like super dry, like driftwood dry. And so from here on out, I'm picking against City Kickboxing guys, and that does include the main event of Izzy and Paulo Costa.
I'm sorry, Adam, but my childhood spent watching anime, and specifically Naruto, forbids me from rooting ever against Israel, no matter how cringy I can find some of the stuff that he does. He got a Naruto tattoo on his stomach. He's won my allegiance forever. He would have to do some pretty bad stuff to cause me to change sides.
Well, maybe it's that. It's the fact that I didn't necessarily venture into the anime region. I actually got into fights at Inglewood High with kids that played Pokemon cards on their lunch breaks and what have you. So maybe it's that. And I figured in how wrong I was. And it wasn't the first time I was wrong. But, I mean, I already liked pro wrestling. And at the time, UFC, right? Or Pride. The terminology of MMA didn't come until 2007, right? So I already had these, like, weird kind of things that I was into. And that point, in the early 2000s, you might as well have been living in your basement with your mom, right? And then now we've got the uprising of Comic-Con and all things anime and comic book and whatever. And I was wrong. I was fucking wrong. But maybe that is kind of
Adam, apology accepted. And if you ever want to join me for a D&D session, just hit me up, man.
All right.
I'm going to move both of you off the stream right now. Hey, kids, I don't want to lose more viewers as we hear them talk for a split second. This is your host. I'm the normal one. I'm the one that doesn't play D&D. You know what was great? I was just fine giving them the floor to have a nice little chat and get to know each other better. And I heard them talking about nefarious things. And of course, they're both talking about their hate for Izzy. And you know what? The kid says stupid things, but all things considered, not the dumbest. So he knows how to sell a fight. I have no problem with that. It's once they got around to D&D and I'm like, oh my God, Jesus Christ, get a room. Anyway, I'm adding both of them back, but they both know they're on notice. Here's what I'm going to tell you guys. The sport needs Israel Adesanya by Rafa Esparza. Here's why. No one else is super interesting at this point. We have some folks who think they're interesting, Kobe Covington. We have some folks who make swings and misses. I won't name names because you could literally go down the roster of the UFC. But Izzy holds the floor and has given us a fucking walkout of epic proportions that nobody is going to touch. Like, we're talking the Pride walkout kind of epic choreography, and it works. Here's what he's doing that I think is very well structured. He responds to questions in a very articulate way. And I think he is super cocky and full of himself. But you know what? If you look at a fighter at that juncture in that age, and who really fundamentally is not saying always the worst shit, then you got a winner. If he says some stuff that compares things to September 11th, well, good news. I know that you want to say it sounds like a terrible thing and you're upset with it, and how dare he ever say that, but I can list you 14 Joe Rogan episodes that might have done the same thing, and yet you might argue, hey, listen, free speech because free speech. I will tell you this about Izzy, is that I like his swag, I like his style, I love the fact that did he just sign with Puma? That commercial felt like him. And to me, I think that sort of weird persona authenticity is so hard to make, and I think that inherently is going to have haters based off of that. So that is my little appeal on saying, like, hey, listen, y'all can hate him as much as you want, but fuck, I think it's working, especially in a sport now losing our biggest stars day by day.
I would like to just preface by saying I found some of his stuff like didn't hit me right, but I have never not been an Izzy fan. You know, I was riding that hype train for a while, you know, like I want it out there just on the record. I was disagreeing with Adam.
No,
I was going about it in my weeb
I heard
way.
you were kind of disagreeing, but all of us do interviews here. We all know what the real disagree sounds like. That was a fake interviewer disagree. We're like, I don't know. I personally think this. I would ask this, though, because now we have the time to give Adam the floor. Adam, what's the deal with Izzy? Why?
I do not like Izzy for the same reasons that I don't like Sugar Sean O'Malley. There's just, I don't know. I don't know if they're drinking the scissor or the lean or whatever. They're buying the Travis Scott meals. But it's a generation that I just know that I am kind of like far beyond, and not to age myself, but I don't get it. I don't get the appeal. When you talk about epic walkouts in MMA, I mean, do we forget Pride? Do we forget, the aforementioned and, much babble-hooed and negative of Jason Miller, right? Mayhem Miller, the way he walked out in Strikeforce and all of the promotions that he fought in. It was just like, oh, everybody was raving about that damn walkout. And it was just like, it was kind of a dance, and he did a flip, and I didn't, was it like a Jabberwockies thing? I didn't understand it. And I hate it when I'm playing like UFC 4 and I hit the wrong button for the pre-fight pose, and I always get the fucking Izzy flip. And I'm like, damn it. I should have.
We are hitting areas of epic haterness that I have never heard out of you before, some of which I understand, a bulk of which I'm looking at you and saying, like, you're mad because the dude has a programmed response on UFC, the video game? Okay. What I will say to you in response to the Jason Mayhem Miller. Yeah, that's a reference that's going to fly in 2020. 1,000,000%. Some of these things don't date well. I think at the very least, Izzy is a guy who we look at and we say, okay, he is a good fighter fundamentally. And if you're going to put him in the same boat as Sugar Sean, like, I don't see Izzy coming out of a fight saying the same nonsense that Sugar Sean says. My defense of Sugar Sean is, I think if you buy the ticket, you're just as responsible for putting that guy into elevated status. And the negative side of that is, well, yeah, he's going to tell somebody that he still thinks he could beat a person. If you've ever had anybody say, I want to run it back with you, it's a terrifying statement. I trained with somebody today, a brown belt. This guy has caught me before. And today we opted to roll no-gi. And I catch him very quickly. And then he's like, oh, man, that's so good. Man, you were so good at that. I have to get it back. And I was like, oh, no. Oh, no. And at the same point, I go, man, I think I respect you more for saying that. But also, I have to have my wits about me. And he very quickly submitted me back. And at which point, both he and I understood non-verbally, oh, we have to do this again. Now, I'm not going to tell you how it went. But, you know, I will tell you this. I do admire people who have the balls to say, I think I could have won that fight, and I think there are better ways to say it. But he's already selling you the next fight by saying, that dude's a journeyman. And you know what the biggest upside of that is? Cheeto is now going to have even more elevated status, having beat a dude who said some nonsense. So in a way, kind of everybody won.
I think I agree with that, and I agree that with fighters, it's so hard to, especially these days, it's hard to know what's authentic and what's not. You know, you had Izzy and Costa like seemingly be cordial in that video a few days ago, and then Costa pulled that white belt, black belt stunt at the face-off, and it was like fun was had by all. So there's a certain degree that the public is sort of aware that, yeah, this is played up and we're accepting that, we're buying into it because we like the narratives and we like getting hyped up for something like this because we like fights. But when you get it to stuff like Sean O'Malley, he is a strange guy to unpack. You know, I definitely want to be able to talk to him sometime to see if I can learn more about him. I'll just leave it there.
I'm so glad that you went from Adams. I want to get inside the mind of Diego Sanchez, which, by the way, I'm not sure you ever come out of. You now being like, Sean O'Malley, one of the great minds of MMA. I would love to hear what he has to say. I think that there is a weird, when I say buy the ticket, take the ride, some of these guys literally send me videos and they're like, what about this? And I go, yeah, he's an idiot at times, but why are you guys watching his videos? I don't even subscribe to the kid. I just thought, yeah, I think it's pretty honest to tell someone after, like, I think 9 times out of 10, I might beat that guy. He's a journeyman. Those sound like honest answers. They don't sound like humble answers. And I would much rather go with the guy who's going to be honest than somebody who's falsely humble, where they say, respect to my opponent. He was the better man tonight. All of a sudden you go to their gym and you're like, fuck that guy. I would have beaten him if this hadn't have happened. At the very least, you get that out of the way. And people just don't like hearing that. But if you talk to enough fighters, and both of you do, they'll tell you people they're like, I should have beat this guy. And what are you supposed to do as an interview? Go, I don't think so. Like, the good news is scoreboard at other times will tell us a certain thing. Were you really going to tell Mason Fowler that it would be like, I don't know, man. I mean, all things considered, if that was a submission only, no time limit match, bro, like, you probably wouldn't have that championship belt on you, Mason. Love you, bro, but they'll make fights. I'm just saying, like, it's just what happens. And I think that's kind of the impulse, is to look at Sugar Sean, have an opinion on him, and then already be ready to see the next fight. So I just love the fact. I was like, yo, Cheeto's fucking boss, man. If there's a great thing that comes out of this, he got a co-main event. He's probably going to get a higher ranked opponent now. And the Sugar Sean train will come back very strong, because the same people who tune in to see if he's smoking weed or with a porn star are probably going to be the same people who tune in higher numbers. So that's kind of where I look at it, which is, well, how much did you invest in building up that fighter? Because we all share a little bit of responsibility. Like when Conor McGregor threw a fucking dolly at a bus, I definitely looked around and I was like, ugh.
Well, right after that, didn't the UFC immediately turn around and use some of the footage to hype up the card?
Which we said they would. Immediately, we said they would. But we also understand their impulse is always going to be like, it's a fucking fight game. So, like, people aren't out here playing patty cake. So it was a thing that happened. I go, well, how are you going to condone something by putting it on your airwaves while also signaling to people press relations wise and say, oh my God, I cannot believe he threw the bus. We have the most contempt from him. Cut it real quick. Put it in the highlight package at the top. Man, I don't believe he would ever do that.
Yeah, we just want to make sure everyone knows we disavow this totally bananas crazy thing that we're going to show you 50 times.
And I mean, the other part is, Adam, this is better than almost anybody, which is pro wrestling, man. Like pro wrestling, there's so many things that are on limits. Like if you look at MJF, who I think straddles that line beautifully, like he takes you to a place where you feel uncomfortable, but it's never at a Gordon Ryan level of like, well, that's just fucking stupid. Like there is a delicate balance. And that's why anytime I see all these MMA guys or the grappling guys try to emulate pro wrestling, I go, you're not a real fan and you're just doing it stupidly so that there are so many holes. Whereas you look over at pro wrestlers and they're like, well, they're fake. And I was like, your promo was fake. Your grappling's real, but your promo fell flat because you don't know how to tell a story. You don't know how to do anything other than the marketing of getting us invested by being emotional or having a response to it. But when that ends and you lose your buzzwords, the match better be good, or you might have to deal with the fact that you can't do the following. You can't both complain about people being worse to each other and more asshole-ish to one another while contributing to that. And I think that has been the biggest crux that I found as an interviewer, which is you can say whatever you want, but don't pretend like you're not responsible for it. You can't put up an inspirational quote one day and then be like, I don't understand why people don't do this the next day because, well, good news. You might have just answered why people are more shitty to each other by just being a dick. So that has been the crux that I have had as an interviewer, where sometimes I hear him talk shit and I go, are you really going to get a match against the homeless? Seems a little out of your breath here.
Yeah. And again, wrestling's so fake, but I mean, leave it to Brock Lesnar, Shayna Baszler, who's at Matt Riddle, and there's a litany of others. Cain Velasquez, Ronda Rousey, that are earning bigger paydays than they did in the UFC. That is real fighting, the echelon of mixed martial arts, and they're getting bigger paydays doing fake stuff. So, I mean, take that as it may. But I mean, you mentioned the Conor butt throwing incident. Who is the person that lost the most out of that whole ordeal, and why is it Ray Borg?
Oh, I was ready to say Ray Borg.
It's a great question. I love the phrasing of it. It's perfect. I would just tell you this, and it's also the part of the reason why whenever you see somebody like a Khabib and you go, hey man, when you jump the cage, I know it doesn't make you 100% like Conor to everybody else, but it means you made a tactical error as well. So like, to me, I see all of these guys as inherently flawed. And I think the best thing that you can have as an interviewer is a little sense of empathy of being like, okay, listen, you get punched in the face for a living, or you fucking get heel hooked a number of times and your knee's probably jello. So rather than really bring to the forefront why I think you're a douche, I'd like to hear you out. But if you say something that I think doesn't resonate or that I have to fact check, I have to do that. So I think it's a balance.
I think that's a a good point to bring up the fact that is there any fighter currently either in UFC, Bellator, or ONE FC that can sell a fight off of pure just positivity and happiness besides like a Roxanne Modafferi? You know, is there anyone else like that their whole thing is I just love to do this and I'm going to be happy the whole time and it's going to be great.
Well, think about it like this. The UFC literally just reminded us it's been, 12 years since GSP said, I was not impressed by the caliber of your performance. And everybody went, yo, shit. GSP talking shit, yo. And then from there, it just became like, I will retire Mac Bisping. And it's like, oh, no. He's being, like, super out there. Like, that's one of our nicest guys talking shit. And yet it wasn't even that anything that I thought of where I said, man, he sucks, man. Look at this guy. I just thought he's selling a fight and he's trying to be a nice guy at the same time. And the phrasing's weird, but I think it works for him because he's kind of weird, but also super appealing as a human being. So I think
I do Olympic weightlifting.
It's not bad. It's not bad. You can stay away. My GSP is still better because it's more obscure. But I would tell you that when he was in his prime and he was trying to sell the fights, I looked at him and I just said, it's not there, but yet I don't think it needs to be. I think he just runs status quo. And if GSP just does his thing, he's great. And guess what? When GSP was gone, all of us looked around like, fuck, dude, I miss that guy. He was the best. So, all right, gents, here's what we need to do. We need to take a momentary break to go ahead and kill the stream because we're going to do a separate stream for the pay-per-view, which means that we're going to come back in just a few seconds. So to those of you who are watching, first of all, thank you for watching. We're going to return in just a few minutes. So go grab a beer, take a bathroom break, do whatever you need to do. But we're going to be right back with Kevin and Adam. Do not go anywhere. We have a major pay-per-view, and guess what happens? When the pay-per-view happens, we get more people who just show up randomly asking, why aren't you showing the fights? And honestly, kids, that's what you tune in for, is to watch us roast people who are poor. So anyways, take a moment. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Come find us at Grappling Hour on all the major platforms. That is YouTube, Facebook, and of course, the Twitter/Periscope. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.